Meeting going. We have a huge agenda tonight, a lot of action items and a lot of discussion items. So we'll start by calling the March 11th, 2019 regular school board meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could ask our FFA rep that's going to present tonight to lead us in the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Because we're kind of scattered, we're going to do an official roll call tonight up for roll. Oh.
Deb Polly?
Yes.
Sandy Burke?
Yes.
Connie Hennon?
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen is coming.
En route.
Rob Langheim?
Nope.
Jesse Erdahl?
Yes.
And Tom Vogel is absent.
Right.
Just for the record, Rob is joining us via Google Hangout, but because this was short notice, we did not post properly, so Rob is unable to vote tonight.
Okay. Consideration of agenda. Anybody want to pull anything from consent, or are there any changes or additions or subtractions to the agenda? I guess I'd like to pull, where is it here? I'm sorry. The resignation, 8.13, resignation of Director in Teaching and Learning. If we could pull that off. And I'll put that under, we will make that, let's just make that 9.0 and deal with it. There. Okay, anything else? Anybody else want to do anything? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Connie, is there a second?
Second.
Sandy, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Public comment. I don't believe anybody submitted a request to speak. Next, we have a special guest from FFA, student presentation by one of our own students here. So Caleb, we will turn it over to you.
This is my talk about what my records and my state degree and start finally.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caleb Schmidt from the Southwest Metro FFA chapter. So this year I've recently ran for my state degree and Star Farmer Award, and I'm the finalist from Region 7. So I will be moving on to state to run with 7 other finalists to hopefully get my state Star Farmer, place first for that. And I'm the youngest person to achieve Region 7, or youngest person to achieve a Star Farmer Award. And I will be attending the co-op next year to further extend my career in FFA, because I need to get classroom hours. So in the past I've been doing a summer program to get my FFA hours, because I would like to eventually run for a region office and hopefully a state office, which you need a certain number of hours, classroom hours, to get, and it's really hard with not having an FFA class in or an FFA class to get hours in the school. So I will be doing that as a junior, hopefully. Then I handed Mr. Helgerson a book about my career in my SAE, my entrepreneurship in poultry, and it's about like my all my records that I've been keeping about my project, and yeah.
passes.
Caleb, would you like to introduce who's with you here and then talk to us a little bit about what you actually do in the program?
This is my FFA advisor, Sarah. She helps me out with a lot of stuff, and all our members.
Let me kick you off. He's been talking for, well, I've been forcing him to talk for about the last hour because he's had to do his recordings for his interview process for Star Farmer. So he's about tongue-tied and done. So through Southwest Metro, Jordan students have the opportunity to take agricultural education classes. And right now it's junior and senior year, right? What? Oh, just senior, and soon it's junior if they get permission. So just one of the things that is challenging as an FFA advisor is that I don't have access to these guys until they're in their senior year or sometimes junior year, because Jordan students are unique. I have nothing but respect for these kiddos because every single one that I've had come through my program are dedicated individuals. They have the background and the desire to go further in FFA, and they're so limited because a lot of them, I think when Tyler was around, didn't find out about FFA until it was almost too late. So being able to open these classes up to the kids so that they have the opportunity, whether through summer programming through Southwest Metro, or I think you can talk to Cindy because she sends me to Waconia. So, you know, I could maybe come over here. So the opportunity to get in touch with the kids at that younger age, because out here you still have I don't want to call you guys rural, but you're a good suburb with a lot of rural bases, right? And a lot of the kids out here just have a high passion for agriculture. And when I say agriculture, I hope nobody envisions that farmer on the back of a tractor plowing a field, because that is so not what agriculture is about anymore. FFA, our knowledge base, it goes from public speaking to wildlife and natural resources. If kids are going into science nowadays, they're going to have their hands in agriculture in some way, shape, or form, whether it's testing on animals, doing testing on plants. Most of the science industries are going to have some form of agricultural involved in with it. So agriculture includes food science, construction, small engines, you name it. It's kind of like, I hate to say this, but we're the new industrial tech. We've kind of, we're in the industrial tech programming kind of stayed in the same channel and kind of didn't evolve, whereas the ag education teachers, we evolved and expanded more into the science field so that we can claim more of those kids and we can reach more of them in the industries that they want to go into and they're excited about. Right now, there's about 60,000 jobs every year in the ag industry, and we only have about 30,000 kids coming out of ag programs out of college to fill those positions. So there's a deficit and there's a need for these classes in the schools. So Caleb has done an outstanding job. He is probably the exemplary student in the whole program right now. He's worked hard, he has a passion for it, and the past advisor previous to me, I think, got his toes dipped into it when Tyler was in. Tyler's his older brother. When Tyler was in it, and I think that is how we've gotten Caleb to the point he is now, is because we got our hands on him when he's in 7th grade. So most kids in FFA, they can start in 7th grade. They can't start getting any or earning any degrees until they have 2 years of high school done. So Caleb is right there. Most kids who earn state degrees are juniors or seniors. Most of them are seniors. I have not heard of anybody at the sophomore level going for a Star Farmer. So that's kudos to Caleb because he has worked his rear end off to try and gain his knowledge and achieve the status where he could accomplish something as great as being recognized as the lead entrepreneur in our region. And I think he has a pretty good shot at state. So from state then he would go on to nationals. So Nationals would be next year, but he would be a junior, but he had one more year under his belt, so more to talk about. But, oh, yes. Part of the programming through FFA and the state, our state convention, is that we are allowed to bring in board members, superintendents, principals, you name it, to have a day at our state convention where you kind of go through the whole process of what the kids learn and how they use their hands to learn and the SAE projects that they do. And you get to see, the award ceremony at the end of that night. And it's something to see. It really shows how much involvement there is in FFA. It's a sea of blue jackets, and it's just kind of like, I take kids that really haven't been too involved, and I'll take one or two to each convention, and just to expose them to it. And I don't really have to say much to them, but them just being there and walking the grounds down at the U, they end up wanting to join because it is such a friendly, it's not competitive in the way that some sports can be competitive. It's more of a, everybody's trying to do their best, and everybody's so willing to help each other do their best, and it's the kids. It's the kids doing it to each other. I'm just the advisor. I point them in the direction and kick them in the butt and say, go. So it's that community of kids that really help support each other, where they find some camaraderie and good. They're just, every one of them is just a great kid, and you can't say enough about it. So, but anything else would you like to add? I don't want to go over our time. We kind of run the rampant sometimes.
So Caleb, tell us a little bit about, so that you're going to be being interviewed down at state by a panel of people. Is that how it works?
Actually, he's got an on-farm interview.
Okay.
So he'll be interviewed on the farm so he can show his project. And that's March 25th. They come out to the farm. Visitor, he'll be gone that day. We'll mark you down. It's spring break. Oh, it's spring break? Oh, sorry, Caleb, can't get out of day of school. So they do an on-farm visit. They go through his portfolio. They ask him questions. It's an interview. It's just like a job interview, and they're looking for the most qualified candidate. And so with the Star Farmer, there's different stars. There's Star Farmer Placement, Star Farmer Entrepreneurship, which they just call Star Farmer. That's what he's gone for. So with his, it's all about, how do you sell your birds? How do you sell your eggs? What is your process for NPIP? And they're just going to quiz them. And, the more they talk, he'll be my third now that's gone through the process. And they just keep asking questions, and then they just build from there. So I think Caleb's by far the most prepared.
So Caleb, can you give us one or two skills that you learned by doing this project that you didn't have before?
Definitely a lot more leadership, because I've brought more of my friends that have kind of showed a little interest in agriculture, and I've brought some of them and still trying to get some more that join our chapter, and being different officer positions, trying to widen my skill of area, and then leadership too, because we do a lot of leadership activities that involve us just taking responsibility in what we do and helping others along.
Thanks.
Questions for Caleb? Could you tell them what are you showcasing when they come to the farm on the 25th?
So I have my interview, so they'll be asking me their questions, and then I also am showing them my barn. So this past 2 years I've been working on setting up my barn completely different, trying to get more of a show exhibition side of my birds, and trying to grow as a hatcher and hatchery, trying to get recognized more, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. So you're a businessman.
Yeah.
Good.
Actually, questions? Good, well, thank you very much
Thank you.
Thank you both.
for coming,
Thank
yes. You made your grandma proud. Okay, Jordan Public Schools hosting the 2020 Minnesota Spring Kindergarten Conference. We have a presentation from some of our kindergarten staff. And before we do that, I just want to say congratulations, Stephanie, on being one of the 40 semifinalists for Minnesota
Thank you.
teacher. Very much deserved. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have to give a little plug for Caleb that I can do just on a personal note. Caleb has provided the eggs to our kindergarten program for probably almost 10 years now. So he has been our go-to guy to get eggs, and I can't even tell you, every year we have a list of questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write them down, and then when I take the chicks out to the farm, I go through the whole list, and Caleb will usually take me on a little field trip and take me over and show me something as he's explaining it. And I have learned so much about chickens and chicks and poultry and breeds of chickens from Caleb. So I'm super excited that you are getting some recognition. So. All right.
I'm Ariane Jensen. I currently teach first grade, but I did teach on the kindergarten team for 6 years. So.
And I'm Stephanie Olstead, and I am currently in kindergarten, but Ariane and I are both, we're co-reps for our region of the Minnesota Kindergarten Association on their board. So we have been members for a long time, but have been on the board for the last 2 years. They, every spring, host a conference, and it's usually right around 250 to 350 people. They bring in big name keynote speakers, and then a lot of them usually have some breakout sessions and things like that. But they do it every spring in usually the first week of May, and they go all over the state. So they kind of look for host sites and kind of try to spread it around, but usually it kind of ends up being whoever is willing to take on the job. Even way back to Bill Rutz's time, for those of you that remember Bill Rutz, Bill has been saying, we should do this in Jordan, we should do this. And just this year now, they finally convinced Ariane and I that we could really do this. So we're just kind of starting that planning process and wanted to kind of let you know what we're thinking and get some feedback from all of you as well. So.
We're really excited about it. We're a little bit nervous too. It's a big job to take on. So Steph talked a little bit about the conference. It is a 2-day conference, Friday and Saturday. Kindergarten teachers, we would also kind of recruit preschool or up to first grade teachers, kind of an early elementary conference. Like Steph said, usually we draw in about 250 to 350 people. It really does greatly depend on where it is. Last year was in Jackson, Minnesota, which is on the southern border, so not a lot of people. You're talking statewide. So we're really excited about Jordan's kind of in the metro. We're hoping to draw in potentially a nice big crowd of people who could make it. So we put together large group speakers. You hope to have a couple keynote speakers and then maybe a couple breakout sessions. Different districts and host sites have done it a combination of different ways depending on what kind of speakers they can get. So for Jordan hosting, we're looking at doing that May 1st and 2nd of 2020. Again, that's a Friday and a Saturday all day. We would hope to bring in good numbers. We're looking at using the high school solely, and so we would use the auditorium kind of as that keynote space. Obviously, putting on a 2-day conference, you have to have places for eating, so you have to kind of either cater in some food or have the cafeteria kind of provide usually a light breakfast, things like that. We also had an idea of maybe bringing in some food trucks or having people have some time to go out and support our local businesses too, kind of think outside the box. Anyway, so we're planning on using the high school, and that would be good for breakout sessions too. A big part of the conference also is vendors, and so we would be looking at a space to host a variety of vendors that people could shop at in between those things. The staff that we're looking at using, obviously we would need custodial and tech staff, which comes with the facilities use that we're looking at reserving. we would kind of form a core planning team, and we've kind of brought it up already to our kindergarten and first grade teachers. We would need a good solid, we can't do it just by ourselves, so we would look to our colleagues to help us really plan, and then any hands on deck at the elementary school, anyone who's interested in helping, there'll be jobs from setup to registration. We've already reached out to a couple staff members who could maybe have certain levels of expertise that they could share at this conference. Like, we're really excited about mindfulness at the elementary schools, so thinking that maybe Ms. Nested could do a small breakout on that, or other, Sarah Fritzky's so great at writing grants, or kind of look at kind of our resident experts and see if they'd be willing. We're excited about the possibility of using CAT for marketing and kind of some help with creating a brochure and the logistics of those things. Yeah, I think those are the staff members that we were looking at. Oh, even using our teams, like my current first grade team, we're doing a lot of outdoor learning this year, so we'd hope to kind of maybe share about that. Or the kindergarten team share about the new Kickstart to Kindergarten when we've brought that up to our board. I mean, this is just a plug for our district too. It's been a great opportunity for Steph and I to meet with kindergarten teachers around the state. And after every time they say, you guys sound like you have such a great district. Can I come teach in your district? They just say, your school board sounds so, or just problem solving and thinking outside the box. And so they're like, your district allows you to do that. So we feel very lucky all the time after we leave those meetings. So anyways, that's kind of what we're looking at. Oh, we also did reach out to the retired kindergarten teachers because we had to be the one to tell Bill, like, we're thinking about doing this. And he was like, no way, I wanted to do that for years. So we're hoping that they would be able to help us in some capacity as well. So
when we first started looking at it and we were looking at dates, we did meet with Matt and Melissa and kind of, running this by them and how would this look, would this work? And the one issue we were looking at was the calendar for 2020 was already set, and that Friday right now is a school day. And Matt so graciously informed us that the calendar committee made a mistake and forgot to put a workshop day on the calendar. So he felt that it would potentially work well to do that as a flex learning day or a workshop day, being that we missed that already, and then using that Friday as a workshop day so we wouldn't have students in the buildings, that we could use that space on that Friday. But teachers would still be able to work in their space or do staff development or whatever the case would be. So that would be the kind of one glitch, or where we would need obviously you would have to make that change to the calendar, looking at finalizing that stuff. The benefit, I guess, would be that we wouldn't need subs for anyone that was helping. We wouldn't need, like right now when we go to the conference every year, then we have subs in our classrooms. So that would be a benefit for us, and I guess for our kiddos too, that there wouldn't be subs in our classrooms on that day. So, and then you included the copy of the, yep. And so you guys can certainly look that over, because we have to do some fundraising. I'm hoping like more big corporate type fundraising as far as donations, things like that. A lot of times conference hosts will get like all the folders donated by Target or all the name tags donated by Office Max, things like that for fundraising. We probably would put together some sort of a swag bag type thing or coupons or something to try to encourage attendees to venture downtown and support the local businesses and things like that. Friday night, typically the evening, there's usually some sort of an event planned within the community. It just really depends every year what each community does. Last year there was a old barn that was converted into a bar, and then like a dance hall type thing upstairs. So then that was our evening activity, was a barn dance, and they did a farm theme. Other years it's been kids music group has come in and performed, and they invite the community in for that. Like, it's really a wide variety. So that would probably be the one thing that we haven't really hammered. We've got a few ideas, but nothing real specific. So if anyone's got some good brainstorms, we would love to hear them on that. And then like Ariane mentioned, just trying to maybe incorporate some, maybe not catering in all the meals, to maybe give our local businesses some business too. We talked about like the food trucks, like what they did for the middle school open house last year, because I thought that was so cool. and just a welcoming way to visit and have some time together, but also if people didn't want that as an option, they could go downtown or whatever too. So, I don't know, anything else?
I think from the financial piece, our kindergarten board does everything. So there's not really any financial obligation on the district. All of this is done through, we submit any receipts or costs. The conference registration that we go in pays for the food and those things. So basically, the biggest thing of being the host district is providing the facilities. Some districts we hear, we don't know how it's worked in the past exactly, have provided at a free or a discount rate. So it's basically saying you can use our facilities to host this conference, but there's not a lot of other financial obligation from our understanding. It goes through the board, which is really nice that then we're already involved in the boards. Those are people we feel very comfortable communicating with and saying, okay, how does this work? You know, and we have good resources, I feel like, for that. So,
Any questions from you or things that we missed?
Does this Minnesota Kindergarten Association charge a fee to enter the conference?
Yes. Well, the conference itself, there is a fee. So, I think it's $250. This year, $25 of that fee is your membership into
our association.
the association for the year. So the conference itself is $225 for the 2 days.
And is that $225 per attendee?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a couple of things. One is for mindfulness. I know you already have a possible resource, but Steph, I'm pretty sure your Sheila Bauer is also a really good resource that might be, I don't know, I mean, it's far enough out that that might be an option.
Yep.
And then the other thing that I was thinking of is that just be aware that that weekend would be the weekend, typically the weekend before the spring play in the auditorium. And so just being aware of that in terms of the keynote speaker, because they'll probably have a set built already, and I don't know what that will be, but just being aware of that piece.
Yep.
So, and maybe it won't be. I mean, there have been years it's been in April.
They've already been in contact with facilities use, so.
Okay.
They're open, but we knew that, or like we might have just like pulled those curtains if there's something going on behind. We're definitely willing to.
And that's usually workable. It's just I just wanted you to be aware that that is a possibility.
When we had, I think we had that occur already right around the holiday time period. There were things set up and things like that, and we had a large dance recital. We hosted a large dance recital, and it's it's some extra work, but you just tear down and move and and you set back up.
It's just something that I wanted you to have on your radar
for sure.
So
if they could just pick their play right now, we could just coordinate themes and it would be all good.
Just have to play for this year, so no.
I know. I'm teasing.
Other questions? So the plan would be that May 1st would be either flex learning day or just a no school day, a teacher workshop day? Is that what we're thinking?
Yes.
It looks like a lot of work for you guys.
It is a big task.
It's a big task.
Yeah, so like your board, do they have like hired staff that help coordinate this stuff? So this is all,
we're all volunteers.
I'm thinking of like the MSBA
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah.
We show up
Yeah.
because the staff handles
Yeah,
everything.
no hired staff. It's all teachers.
Yeah.
It's all teachers like us that make up the board. So
Wow, so this really is a huge
wow.
undertaking on your part.
yeah.
And then we will really rely on just anyone who's willing to help on our teams, to kind of, I think next will come the tasks of delegating, like who wants to be in charge of communicating with vendors and who kind of wants to head up food, and then I'll be in communication. But it is a big task, but we're nervously excited.
Yeah.
We've been thinking about it for a couple years, so.
And we're hoping to do a lot of the legwork this summer and get a lot of whatever we can kind of organize this summer so that
Well, it
not
sounds
as
like
much during the year. So
sounds like a great opportunity to showcase our district and
That's what
our
we
staff
thought.
and all the things that you guys do.
That's what we're thinking.
yeah.
Other thoughts or questions? Tommy, how do you feel about it as a student?
It's cool.
We'd put up some kindergarten-like decorations, Thursday night. Usually there's a theme, so we've been toying around with baseball or something. So we'd you usually showcase like art, elementary artwork and things like that, so we'll be decorating the high school.
So your halls might look a little different Thursday night.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let us know if you have any
Thank you
ideas or
very
any
much.
ideas for those like bigger name corporation or kind of anything that you guys have. We're
Sure.
willing to hear, so thanks.
Sounds good, thank you. Does that have to be an action item somewhere down the road?
With the calendar modification.
No? Just that, but not for the
Nothing.
posting it, okay. Okay, on to consent. We have minutes, we have the finance reports, and just to note that our surprise, surprise, snow budget is kind of off the charts, as is mine at work. The number of Southwest Metro kids are up, and the care and treatment and homeless numbers are up, which were some added expenses. For donations, we have Mighty Cause Food Shelf, $45, Gary Shuttle Food for Friends, $100, Victor and Janilla Wires, a donation to the CIRC for $100. We have several policies. First, most of them are first and final readings. We have a new hire, an elementary school custodian, Mark Sokol. He's hired at step 4. A new hire, licensed school psychologist, Jamie Burr. She's at MA, she or he? Jamie Burr. Is it a she, Jamie, or he?
She.
She, sorry. She's at MA 30+1. Long-term high school math substitute, Mark Biskins, is at a BA1. Track coach, 1-year assignment, Kelly Heyer, Schedule C. Assistant softball coach, Kelsey Munson, booster, paid. Softball coach, Jenny Kuski, Schedule C, pay. Elementary school playground paraprofessional, Alec Holbeck, he'll be Schedule A, grade 1, step 1. Then we have resignation of elementary school playground paraprofessional, Becky Christensen. We have job descriptions for cook's helper, site lead cook, nutrition services director, communications and marketing director, and special services director. And just for, basically for you, Jesse, the job descriptions back when we hired, what were they called? The guy, workman comp guys, advisors.
Minnesota Work Comp Advisors.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, can I, Madam Chair,
Sure,
may I
yes,
speak to that?
absolutely.
So, what we're doing is, these are obviously not new positions, they're just a review of our previous job descriptions, and we wrote them after we had the work comp advisors take a look at them to make sure that we had the proper language in terms of like physical requirements and those types of pieces.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Sandy, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action items 9.0.
Do you need a second on that?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Do you need a second?
Oh, didn't somebody second?
I
I'm
just
sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Connie, thank you. Okay, now all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Where'd Lauren go? Oh,
She went to the concert.
okay. Okay, action item 9.0. I pulled that because I just wanted to personally thank Carol. We're accepting her resignation as Director of Teaching and Learning and District-wide Assistant Principal. And just over Carol's tenure here, she's been a great asset to the district, and I just thought we should pull hers and give her a special thanks. So thank you, Carol. And if anybody else wants to say anything?
It's going to be, I think, that's a big void. I mean, the number of state reports and federal reports. She's done a lot of work associated with our strategic planning effort. Those of you who were involved with that know that she wordsmithed a lot of that. So we wish Carol the best in her retirement, and she's going to be doing some fun things. I know she's going to be working with Gustavus, and I believe Amy Visner is taking a sabbatical leave, and Carol is going to fill in for her at Gustavus. So that's
Did not know that.
that's right up her alley. So we wish Carol well.
Yeah, that's great. Good. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Carol's retirement.
So moved.
Sandy, second.
Second.
Jesse, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and act on the Achievement and Integration Revenue FY 2020 budget worksheet.
Ms. Williams and Ms. Haferman, you want to address the board on achievement A and I?
Yep, so every year we have to fill out a budget worksheet on our new revenues for the achievement and integration, and so this year we're allocated roughly around $156,000 or $157,000. That is geared towards our plan. This budget is going to actually, the plan is going to be amended this year because I've been working with Amy Haffeman on looking at ways to better utilize these funds through the use of like our equity specialist. We had our math interventionist under the plan, and so as we are rolling into staffing for next year, that's where these funds go to.
And what's the increase year over year, Chad?
Last year, I believe we had about a $20,000 increase from last year.
So we were roughly
132,000, I believe, was the amount.
And the increase in funds is due to student count?
Yep. Yes.
And talk a little bit about, really, I think for Rob and Jesse's benefit, the achievement and integration, how we qualify, who our partner districts are.
Yeah, so our host district is the Shakopee School District. And so a part of this is working with the Shakopee School District, and Prior Lake School District is another part of it, to create opportunities for our students of different cultural backgrounds. So like the diverse leadership group, all the things that Malik is doing throughout the school and Sarah Miller have been doing all through the school district that helps funds these activities and provides resources and supports for our students. A big part of this is trying to increase the academic skills of our students so they can attend a post-secondary and get them college ready.
Cool.
Yep. Any questions?
Nope. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Achievement and Integration Revenue FY 2020 budget.
So moved.
Jesse?
Second.
Second, Connie. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and act on the declaration of surplus items. For Steve Jensen, we have 17 basketball shorts and 126 basketball jerseys that we need to declare surplus on. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Sandy, is there a second?
Second.
Jesse, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and act on declaration of surplus items. This is from Joe Perkle. There are some racks in the weight room, I believe, that they want to dispose of. So I'll entertain a motion to declare surplus for those items.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Connie, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, review and act on the sixth graders being added to the cross-country team. Joel's not here, is he?
No, but I can just speak to the note there. It says, with board approval, we'd like to allow our sixth graders to join the cross-country team in the fall of 2019. They would not be able to compete in the state high school league events, but in many meets that we've attended, they've allowed middle school competitors, including sixth graders, a chance to run. I think the idea is that coaches feel that, well, Coach Nylander feels that this would help to draw interest into the cross-country program and capture more students that may not know about it or may not know that they have the gift to run. So it's allowable. It's similar to, as Joe put it here in the note, middle school theater, where, you know, sixth graders are allowed to participate. So that's kind of the gist of it, without reading every single word in the note.
Well, and just so you're clear that they would not be covered by the MSHSL insurance. MSHSL takes on insurance on all athletes. Is it 7th grade and up? 7th grade and up. So they would not be covered by that.
So how do we,
So
I'm
would,
sorry.
oh,
Go ahead.
so how would they, would they be covered under community ed then? Because they would be signed up? No? So,
It's their own personal insurance.
okay. And then my other question would be, will they be riding the bus? And will that make an extra bus?
Mm-mm. I'm sorry, I can speak to that one. Is that okay?
Yeah. Sandy.
The team is very, very small. Right now, there were 7 girls and I believe 14 boys. So it would not, unless we really expand next year. I think that this is the goal is to expand so that they will have more students, so.
Okay. Other questions or thoughts? Sandy?
So can you speak to like how then do we have parents sign a liability waiver or anything like that because of the not being covered by the catastrophic insurance, or how do we handle that? I have no idea, because I wasn't even aware that that was the case for the theater program. So
I would say that they, similar to the other activities, when they sign up, there's a specific form and waiver right there.
Okay.
I suppose you'd have to modify it so it just notifies families that they would not be covered under the state high school league.
that's what I'm wondering, because I've signed that form 1,000
and just
times.
note that their own private insurance would be responsible for any potential injuries.
Okay.
That's similar to what happens if a child gets injured on the playground.
Right.
It's the family's responsibility.
But I'm just thinking about that form that's on, is it Affinity online?
Yeah.
So it would have to be something that would automatically directly link to, for any 6th graders to that. Because I know there's been some issues, because I just dealt with registration for track, and it's supposed, like there's certain things that are supposed to carry over and they aren't. And so I know there's been some problems with Affinity. So, and I know they're looking into it, but I just wondered if that would be something, because that could be a potential issue if they're signing something thinking, oh, it says we're covered, but we're not. They're not. So I just want to make sure that we have that taken care of on that software.
Okay.
Can I ask another question? Connie?
Will they pay a fee?
Yes, I believe they'll pay the junior high fee, which is what our 7th and 8th graders pay as well. Even if they participate in a varsity level, it always defaults to the grade level in which they're in.
Okay. Any more questions?
That's correct.
Okay. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the addition of 6th graders to the cross-country team.
So moved.
Sandy, is there a second?
Second.
Connie, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and act on the girls' golf field trip request. And that is, you want to handle that? That is a field trip to Dakota Ridge Golf Course.
So Dakota Ridge is out in Redwood Falls. This is a 2-day tournament. So it's too far to, it doesn't make sense to drive there, drive back, and drive there. Dakota Ridge is probably, what, an hour and 30 minutes away, approximately, hour and 40. So I think it's the first time participating, if I remember correctly. I don't know that we've done this in the past. They've submitted the proper paperwork, so I would recommend approval.
And it looks like they're requesting funds from the Booster Club to help with it. And the school pays for the tournament entry fee because it's a sanctioned high school league activity.
Yes,
so.
similar to what we do for wrestling.
And I know I was there when they presented to the Booster Club. The motivating factor is to face stiffer competition that they're not seeing right now currently. And so with this particular group, for this team, just get them better competition that they're just not facing. So.
Good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the girls' golf field trip.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Sandy. Any more discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and act on the Harmonix field trip request. Congratulations, by the way. That is exciting.
Thanks.
Okay. You want to handle that one?
I'm going to ask Jeff to come up to the podium and help out with this one because he's been involved with this as well. So actually, I went to Jeff and asked him some of the details. I know there's probably some questions here. It's related. I mean, we didn't know this was going to occur, but they're so good that they qualified to move on to that next level. And obviously, there's a chance that if they do well, extremely well at this competition, that they could qualify to go to New York City, I believe.
So weekend of the 26th of April.
26th of April, then.
Yeah. Prom weekend.
Right.
Oh, there's some conversations going on.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to that.
So a couple of things just before Mr. Visner talks a little bit. We viewed harmonics as an extension of our women's choral program. Whether or not that's the right thing to do, I'm not sure, but we never had to bear significant expense with harmonics other than, we used a donation from Jiv Pauley to purchase a lot of the equipment that they use, but that's also used by, our choral music program, and I believe band.
Pops concert, and actually we used it for our Pep Fest too.
So we've never had a significant expense, quite frankly. So now that this has popped up and it is a significant expense, it's approximately $6,500. The question comes in, how is this funded? So I'm going to let Jeff talk a little bit about what's been discussed there, and obviously you see that the amount charged to students is $400. It's fairly expensive. So it's really kind of raised some questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can speak. I received an email from Ms. McKnight today, and we talked about some of the things. And with current money that they already have raised through the Booster Club from the Drive One, they have about $2,000 right there that they could put towards the trip right away. The Lions Club has been nice enough to allow them, if they come and perform for the Lions Club, I believe it's next week, they would give $100 per student, so that would be $1,400 also. There's also been another about $775 that have been just random donations that have come in. So at this time currently, the cost per student would be about $210. So
Still a lot on short notice.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's the challenge of it, and I think there's still other people willing to help out that maybe haven't stepped forward yet, waiting to see what happens. Another suggestion that I had was to host a benefit concert, and do something like that. The other nice thing we have is that there is money in a few of the different music accounts that could be used for now, and then if there was another fundraiser we needed to on the back end, we could do that. I know it's not ideal to pull and repay, but that may be something that we have to look at doing, or as an option too. So those are the fundraisers that are out there right now. Just to be straightforward, there were some people that maybe jumped the gun a little bit and threw some fundraising ideas out before they were ever approved by anybody, and so those have been pulled back. Right, Tommy? I mean, those have been pulled back, and people are waiting. Yeah, people are we got 14 young women that are super excited and want to find any way to get to Milwaukee and get going and compete in a beautiful theater. If you haven't, Google it at some point, the Pabst Theater, where they're performing. It's just this beautiful turn of the century, 1800s and 1900s theater. It's just ornate. It's beautiful. So, anyway. So all the planning has been done, just waiting to talk to the board and get everything finalized for this. Obviously, for next year, what we'll probably do is put this in even before we qualify. I'm a superstitious person, so that makes me a little nervous, but do all this ahead of time so we know and we can plan ahead, and even put in the one for New York so we can plan ahead. But some of this stuff is fluid too, because the New York was actually supposed to be the week before, right, Tommy? And then I think they changed the dates on that one.
Probably.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like Easter weekend, and then we looked at it again. It kind of
There you go.
moved.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess I would entertain questions or what other things people might want to know about.
You said Booster Club is $2,000. Is that like the most they'll do, or is there an opportunity?
That is, so what they have is the music programs raised $5,000 on that, and Katie and Logan talked and said $2,000 seemed fair. So that's all they've asked for. So they haven't asked for any money from the Booster Club general accounts, from what I understand.
Okay.
There hasn't been any requests from that group. I know that there's been conversations with Joe, Tina Davis, and Katie about a few different things.
Right.
So, yeah.
My only concern is if it's up to the students to raise $210 and one student can't raise those funds, like, to me that doesn't seem right.
I agree.
It's all go. You know what I mean? All go or no go. And
Right.
this is such an opportunity for these kids that we need to find a way to make it happen.
I'm confident if there's any kids like that,
Okay.
the money will be found. Because the other thing students can do is, as they've done all their different fundraising for music programs, each of them has an individual account
Yeah.
through band and choir.
Sure.
And so, just using my own daughter, for example, she spent most of it to go to New York City last year.
Okay.
But she still has like $63 or something in
Okay.
her account.
Good.
So students have some of that opportunity too, that they've already fundraised for other events, so there's some flexibility there.
Good.
And obviously being a part of it, I mean, for full, my daughter's a part of this too, and my gauge from the parents is there's no kids are gonna be left behind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Yeah, Connie.
And I don't mean to, you wouldn't be superstitious, but when you want to get people to support the Ford Drive, now they'll be more in tune to want to get their people together to build up their fund balance. So
Yep.
I would think if you borrowed, I mean, I know that your rotation won't come like but 4 years, but that would be an opportunity to build up that thing.
Yeah. And Connie, as a point of context, that $5,000 that they have in the music account, a lot of those dollars were from the Drive For fundraiser.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'd say you're not being superstitious. We'll just replenish the fund.
Well, I think it'll be a motivator for students that haven't done some of the other music fundraisers, just saying, oh, there's not a trip for another 3 years or whatever, and maybe now, if they're part of this, like, oh, I'm gonna dig in a little deeper. Yeah. Other things you and I had talked about?
Yeah, Jeff and I talked a little bit today about and things that, you know, really, quite frankly, for whatever reason, we just hadn't thought about before, but Title IX, some of those documents that you provided us from the MSBA conference. We talked a little bit about Schedule C, and, you know, right now Ms. McKnight is doing this out of passion. You know, is that a matter of, is it fair? I mean, those are the pieces that I think we need to have conversation about.
And I think it's that, and I don't know where it fits either. I don't know if this is, do we run it through community ed like TRAP? You know, is this something that fits in that more community ed TRAP, you know, where we somehow fund, you know, there's a fee to participate, but it's 90, but I don't know what it would be. But, you know, then some of that money goes back to the supervisor or the coach in this case, you know, back to Ms. McKnight or whatever, I don't know. But those are some things to think about. Or is it a, you know, an activity with a fee like speech or, but the tricky part is not MSHSL regulated, it's regulated by a different group, so.
I think
Food for thought.
Yeah, I just think you have to be, I mean, obviously, we want to promote our staff and our staff to be passionate about things and to start programming, and we want our students to have that wide range of experiences. We just have to be consistent in how we go about formalizing these groups, because anybody could say, well, I'd like to do a such and such group, and then, you know what I'm saying, within their field, let's just say it's somebody in business ed, and they say, well, all of a sudden they want to do Business Professionals of America, and then we have that group going to a competition and them coming to say, well, precedent's been set. So I just think we need to be just super diligent about how we develop these
So would that be similar then
parameters.
to like robotics, because our robotics are not paid?
They're on Schedule C.
They're on Schedule
Yeah,
C.
they are.
Yeah, they are. And that's MSHSL.
This would
Okay.
probably most closely compare
But-
to something like FCCLA.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Okay.
thinking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which I don't know if we still
That's-
have it as a stipend in our Schedule C or
Oh,
not.
Yes.
but-
Yes, we do.
We do.
But we don't
Yeah.
have it, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to go back between myself and Mr. Perkel and look at what this compares to and what,
Right.
you know, we don't have FFA or we don't have FCCLA or, you know, those.
I think it's
opportunities.
like jazz band would be a
Right.
band position, but I believe
They don't
jazz,
compete.
but jazz band's in Schedule C, I believe, for a
Absolutely.
stipend. I'm almost positive, but anyway, I don't think that's something that we're worrying about right now, but I do think it's something administratively that I just want to share with the board that it's something we need to look at.
Tommy, do you have anything to add from your perspective as one of our Harmonix students?
We have a performance this Thursday.
Oh.
Snap. So if you guys want to come and see it.
All right.
What time is that?
10 a.m.
Huh?
10 a.m.
10, yeah. So about that time, it's a 12-minute set. So we're going to be singing for 12 minutes straight. Yeah, it's a lot, especially with those dance moves. Yeah, so it'd be great if you guys came and like saw how much work we put into it. Like sometimes we're at school till like 9 o'clock trying to figure out if we're going sharp or if we're going the right pace, and like everyone's getting irritated at each other, but like our hard work kind of paid off at the end of the day, and it's cool. Like we have so much support from everyone from the school now. Like they knew about us, but like now they really know about us, and like people have just been really positive. So it's great to see the positive side of Jordan supporting like different programs that are not sports related. So
Why don't you share the story about the awards thing?
Oh.
Because that was pretty sweet.
So we were all on stage and they were presenting the awards. So I was like, in my head, I was thinking maybe we just got like second place because we needed to place in first or second to move on to semifinals. So we were all just like standing there. We were waiting. Third place was called. Second place was called. Oh yeah, we got best choreography, by the way. Sorry. No, and then so like first place was like, okay, if we don't get this, I don't know what happened. Like, we were good, so we were like, if we didn't get second place, then who got, like, you know, like, first place? Because, the group that always, like, you know, is the best got second place. So we were like, if that group didn't get first place, I wonder what we got. So we were just waiting. And the announcer was taking forever to announce first place. So we were like, come on, just, like, say it already. So she says our name, and the shock went through my body. I was just jumping and I just started crying. I want to cry again, like thinking about it, because like last year we competed and we got fourth. It was kind of a bummer, but like to see how much we've changed over a year, it's like so crazy, and that just made me so emotional. And the fact that we put so much effort, like it was so crazy. It was a crazy feeling, and it's just seeing everyone like support us, like our family members there, and like past kids from like seniors from last year just coming to support us too. It was just like everything. It was just so emotional that everybody really like came out to support, and we did it. So
Yay.
yeah.
Yay. That's great. I saw the video.
It was awesome.
And that was the team that finished second was very good. They were very good.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, I think we're in the top two. And then when they were named, especially because the team that they named third was not necessarily what I perceived as one of the top. So then I was like, uh-oh, is this all turned upside down?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're like, even I've coached a lot of sports, I've been in a lot of things, but my heart was just beating out of my chest, just waiting for that to happen.
My mom's like, I still can't believe you guys got first place. I was thinking like second or third. I was like, thanks.
Well, that is great. Good. Well, I will entertain a motion to approve the Harmonix field trip.
So moved.
Sandy, is there a second?
Second.
Jesse, discussion? Just good luck.
Thank you. What
was that?
Somebody's flight is leaving.
Oh, okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the trip signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. JHS registration guide.
Yeah.
Mr.
Few
Visner.
Which one?
So do the changes. I think that's the other one's 63 pages long. So just some changes. We changed the format. We looked at it and thought maybe this would be an easier format to read. So we to just read and navigate. So we changed the format of all of it around, put it into a Google document to make it easier to share also. So the only changes we have, English, we added a CE speech that's done through MSU Mankato. Ms. Spees was able to appeal to the MSU Mankato and get that approved. This brings a college credit option for next year. Because this was so late, we didn't, before we had established our, we'd already established our schedule for the most part, or what we were going to offer, and MSU hadn't told us yet if we were approved. So it was in the background. It got approved like about a week before the course registration book. And so for next year, students still have to take public speaking. All students have to take public speaking, and CE speech is an elective that they take after public speaking. Then we're going to look for the future. We're going to meet with the whole English department and say, can it be an option to do public speaking or CE speech as your speaking credit? But for next year, because it was so late, we just didn't feel comfortable to throw that in without knowing what's going on. And this will give us a year to test out CE speech and have that be a part of it.
Is that a semester or quarter?
It's a
or,
semester.
A semester, a year.
It's a semester.
Okay.
And CE is concurrent enrollment.
Yeah.
So they get both high school credit and college credit. Facts, Ms. Jans is changing fashion design to design. And what that means is she's going to teach the principles of design to everyone, and then students can choose a path of either diving into the fashion design area or the interior design area. Physical education, Ms. Valerius and Mr. Martin were talking, and they've seen through other schools that a girls or women's only physical fitness or weight training program really has some benefits for students wanting to be in there. And they've seen, like Hutchinson, for example, has 4 or 5 sections of female-only weightlifting classes. So trying to offer an option like that, because participation may be better in a single-gender program.
Do we get into any kind of Title IX stuff by doing that?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of with that. I think if it's, if you looked at our, well, I'm not going to speak, not that I know of.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
going to speculate on something that I'm not sure of.
I think I'll say it. So when it's women's activities, when you're adding more, you usually don't have an issue.
Because for most of our
'Cause we're-
elective FIAD classes,
The
are
numbers
majority
don't.
male.
The numbers don't match up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if a boy registers for the class?
I guess we'd have to cross that bridge and look at
Okay.
it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Good question. We'll have to look at that. and
Oh,
see.
after the ruling,
I'll have to-
this
yeah.
week, I mean, it's a
Yep.
possibility.
We'll have to reach out to our peers that
Sure.
are adding some classes like this,
I
or
think
have been
it's a
doing
great
it for a long
idea. I
time.
would just
Yep, it's a great question.
cover our bases.
Yep. Instrumental music, because of the numbers in band, Mr. Burnside is wanting to do a second band. And what it'll be is we'll have concert band and a symphonic band. So there'll be a tryout process, much like we already do in choir, where there's different levels of bands. And it doesn't mean that one will be shorted of anything else. It'll just be pushing the musicmanship of the symphonic band and really challenging them with harder pieces for that. And then industrial ed, Connie. Industrial ed's got a couple things coming here. One is advanced design and machining, 2-hour block class for a semester, focusing on career pathways in the manufacturing industry, building those relationships and getting students not only the skills inside the classroom, but getting them outside to work on those things. And then a building trades, which would be a 2-hour block for the whole year, building that house or cabin, or depending on the numbers. You know, if it's 25 kids, maybe we can dive into a Habitat for Humanity and build a house. If it's 15 kids and we say that that's something we want, it might be a tiny house. Mr. McClellan has a connection with Cywick, which also does these, what did he call them, travel campers or something like that. So there's some different options for that.
And if I may add, today, it's live now. We posted for IT teacher. So we'll be breaking this up into more of your traditional woods, metals, industrial technology, and the other one, so that's sort of more the dirty lab, and then we're going to go clean lab, which will be more engineering, architecture, advanced design, that type of work. So we're gonna, I don't know that it'll necessarily happen for next year. We're gonna try, just because registration books are out, and breaking it up and specializing is gonna be a little difficult. But for 2020 and beyond, we hope to go to specific different pathways.
And Ben might talk about, I don't want to put him on the spot, but Ben might talk about this, that if we find this right person that can build that STEAM programs, you know, he or she can start in the middle school and start to build that interest. So then we have it growing up into the high school too. So next year there's probably some flexibility there, in his schedule. Tommy?
So, are those classes going to be like a semester or like 2 semesters?
Which one?
Like the industrial tech with like the buildings.
The house building one would
Yeah.
be the full year,
Full year.
2 hours, yeah. So there may be some students that don't want to go to Southwest Metro to do the building of a house and want to stay here and not ride a bus for half hour a day. So that's going to give them that opportunity. And then the manufacturing one is only a semester.
Okay.
Yeah, for 2 hours a day. Yes.
Going back to the symphonic band.
Yep.
So is the idea also to maybe divide the concerts as well, or are they all going to be together? Because I'm just thinking about in terms of how crowded those concerts usually are. I just wondered if that was something that was being thought of, or?
I don't think so, because I think we look at it the same way as we would with choir, that the
Yep.
students will be, you know, all the different choirs come together. So that's not something we've talked about doing, is dividing the concerts out.
I just
Which
know that
yeah.
the winter concert was just so jam-packed.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we talked about that.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it
It's a
is.
good problem
It is.
to
It's
have.
a
Great
great
thing.
thing.
Question 3.
Yes.
Very good. Very good segue there.
So how does that work, like with contest? Can a school bring 2 different bands
Yes.
to contest? Okay.
All of when we hosted contests here, all of our choirs competed.
Okay.
Even including our Hubman chorus, you know, our 9th grade boys or 9th and 10th grade boys all competed.
Great.
And all did very well too.
Now he's on the plane.
Oh.
Oh my God.
We've had a tour of the Detroit airport.
He should have been on like the little kid slides or something.
Sort of like Flat Stanley.
Where in the world?
Where in the world?
So, and then timeline wise, all the presentations were given last week. This week, the students are registering. That'll start tomorrow. They do that all online. So really, by the end of the week, we'll have 85% of our students registered and be able to look at, you know, what our numbers look like as far as.
So the industrial tech courses will be courses, not part of the academy.
Well, I don't think there
There's
isn't really a
it's
way to, I
not a
mean,
difference.
if we want to, we could define them as part of the summit program. I
So
think at this
they would
point.
bring, they could still bring speakers in and
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
Okay,
I think that's something we haven't really defined is,
depending on who the teacher will be.
yeah, and depending on what kind of content. I mean, it's going to be hands-on, and if we get them out, I think more so even the advanced design and machining is even more of a summit type class, because they're going out and they're going to have mentors and they're going to have those pieces. But we didn't label it that for right now.
So going back up to the CE speech. So public speaking is a prerequisite then to the CE speech
At this point, it would
class.
be yes.
But, okay, so if you're a senior, you have to take the public speaking class, but then for next year, the CE speech would not be an accredited class.
A senior, for next year's seniors, they would have to still take public speaking. Many of them have already taken it as juniors. So they'd be open to it next year.
Okay.
Some seniors would have to take first semester public speaking, second semester CE.
And it
We'd
would-
probably look at we would look at the CE as a second semester.
Okay, so the CE would be a credit then, college credit?
Correct.
No?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
it
yeah.
would be. Oh,
Yep.
okay, I misunderstood you.
Yep.
Okay.
But in the future, that would take the place of the public speaking potentially.
Potentially, students could look and say, I'm going to take public speaking, or I'm going to take CE speech.
Sure.
And they can choose one or the other.
But not for next year.
But not for next year.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Questions? Other questions for Jeff? I like the changes.
I do
Yeah,
too.
great.
It's
Very
great.
exciting.
Good. It's really good.
Very, very exciting.
Actually,
Yeah.
I have one
Yeah.
more about
Sure.
speech. So are the incoming juniors then aware that that's the case? Because it might behoove them to wait to take that class until their senior year if they don't have to take it as a prerequisite. Does that make sense?
Yes, but they're not, because we haven't had that conversation.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
What we need to do is sit down. There's trickle downs of that.
Okay.
Because I think that public speaking could end up having very few students in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at, and Tommy, maybe you can agree or disagree, I would say most college-bound students are going to look and want to get into CE speech because they can get their speech credit out of the way before they go to college and speak in front of people they don't know, that they're still trying to make an impression with for the first time. Here, it might be hard here to give speeches in front of students you know, but it's probably less scary than people from.
But we could limit that. I mean, we could limit the CE courses because we do that for other things, don't we? I mean, like for CIS and things like that. Don't we have like a limit on how many? I mean, are you thinking of them?
Most of the time we limit it because there's not that many kids that want to take them.
Okay.
You know, and take that rigor.
But would you think then that maybe perhaps then that would be like three sections of it or 2 sections of it or something like that? Is
No.
that what you're worried about? Okay.
If there's 3 sections of that, the only person that can teach it is Miss Spees.
And then she has
Yep.
freshman English.
Yep.
So yeah.
And then things shift, and then maybe your senior member of the department now is teaching all the freshman English classes.
Right. Right. Got it.
So there's pieces that we need
Sure.
to sit and meet and work
Got
out
it.
all those different pieces of the puzzle
And
before we
since-
just go all in.
Yeah, since
Yeah.
public speaking is a requirement for us, you don't want to market yourself out of
Yeah.
offering that class for the students that aren't college bound.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a balancing act
Yep.
for you.
And it's respecting
Sure.
respecting and having those conversations with the whole department.
Right.
You know. Yep.
And by the way, I have had numerous compliments about the fact that we do require all of our kids to take public speaking because I've talked to several other districts over the last several months and like, you require that? Yeah, we do. Like that's not because that's a skill that everybody needs. And so I just want to kudos for having to require that for public speaking because that's definitely a skill that I think everybody needs.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm biased.
Absolutely.
Not that you're biased and do speech judging
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Speaking from experience, somebody that threw up every time before she had to give a speech in high school.
I love giving speeches. I love public speaking. It was such a fun class.
Yeah.
It was a little too easy for me because I like speaking in front of people. So I feel like having this class is also great for like kids who are good at speaking, and it gives them something, like it gives them a chance to challenge themselves. So that's good.
That's great.
Thanks,
Good.
Cindy.
Good discussion. Okay, so we need to review and act on the 1920 JHS registration guide with the changes. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Connie, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Sandy, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and act on the 2019 JMS registration guide.
All right, so should have brought a smaller computer. So the changes for the middle school they're not super significant this year. Years past, we've done a lot of tweaking and reshaping. Now it's more refining. So our elective wheel, if you remember 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, we tweaked and eliminated the study hall piece in 5th and 6th grade, and then created some more elective classes for students to take. So we had a class called What Makes Jordan Great in 5th grade, and then we had a class called Who Shapes Minnesota in 6th grade. And there's a lot of overlap in those classes. So as we taught those classes, it really turned into the What Makes Jordan Great. It was bigger than just Jordan. It ventured out into Scott County and then some pieces in Minnesota. So there was a lot of overlap. Sat down with the teachers. So the new class that you see for the 5th grade elective wheel is Jordan and the World Around Us. So we'll start, and so students understand the community they live in, go to Scott County, look at Scott County, go to Minnesota. So it's a bridge into the social studies curriculum across the middle school. Then in 6th grade, there's 2 new elective wheel classes that will be opposite band and choir. And we really looked at what are the needs of our kids and what are we, where are our kids struggling and where are they being successful. We were just at Wolf Ridge, and this was all in place prior to this, but the 6th grade teachers, obviously kids can't bring electronics to Wolf Ridge. They brought a ton of just games. They brought Uno and Skippo and just different fun board games that a lot of us grew up with. And I tweeted a picture of this group of kids. They're sitting in a circle and they were playing, I think it was Uno, and they were just laughing and hooping and hollering, having a great time. Well, the game-based problem solving really is that. It's teaching kids just communication skills through games. So you can read the description, but the 6th grade team saw that that's a big need of just communication and interaction without a screen and without technology. So they came up with that idea, so they'll pose different challenges to kids, and then they'll solve those challenges through games. And then Skills for Success is really looking at the skills that a kid needs to be successful in middle school and beyond. So they'll look at healthy decision making. They'll look at that in the real world, face to face, but also in the virtual world. So it'll be that a deeper dive of digital citizenship when more and more kids are starting to get access to technology outside of school. And then that's where we're still having conversations about DARE and where that fits in. That could fit nicely right into this, so then we're gaining instructional time from the core classes. Yep.
Next question. Okay, so I'm trying to understand this. So are all the 5th graders taking the Jordan class and all the 6th graders, besides the ones that need to be pulled out for something? Yep. So I'm confused. Is this really more of an exploratory class or an elective?
It's technically it's technically an elective because it's opposite band and choir, and not every kid will get it, because if a kid chooses to be in both band and choir, yeah, they won't be in these classes. So okay, most kids go through this, okay, but it would be those double music kids, and then it would be kids that struggle and need an intervention.
Right. Okay.
So.
Okay. I was just trying to clarify, yep, and wrap my head around that. Thanks.
And then going on to the next page is the Spanish piece. We've talked a lot about that. And it will be very interesting to see the registration numbers. Just talking with kids, there's a lot of interest in Spanish 1. So Jeff and I are going to have to get creative. It may mean that there's a group that walks over to the high school to take Spanish 1. It may mean that students have to give up something else, one of their exploratory options, in 8th grade. So we'll have to get creative with the scheduling on that piece. And we may have 30 that register for it and we go with 30. Where it really will be interesting is if we have 45 and we don't have enough for 2 sections. So that's where the option to walk over to the high school would be a good solution. And kids are used to that, and that's the advantage of our campus feel. Yep.
Sorry.
You're good.
Keep asking. But my concern, and I know we've talked a lot about this round and round, but do we feel like this is going to impact band and choir significantly? Because that's a concern, because we've worked so hard to build
Yep.
those programs up.
So in conversations with band and choir, I've talked a lot with them. If there's a kid that absolutely can't work it into their schedule, then we're going to still have them do their lessons. And then like a night, this week before Arts Extravaganza, they were pulling kids and getting them into the performance time. So the thought with this whole plan was when we put in Spanish half a year in 7th grade, half a year in 8th grade, many kids were checking out. And when we looked at the numbers, a lot of kids were leaving band and choir already. So with talking with the music staff, they thought this was a good solution to try to capture those kids, because it's only 1 year, so they may not be in the large group rehearsals, but they can still be engaged in music. Okay. And then when they go over to the high school and their schedule opens up, then they'll be able to take to go back into band or choir. So
I just hate to lose those kids, because I think then if they get into 9th grade band, then I think there's just such a lack of attrition after that point, because they love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough balance, and we've talked about that before, because you have to honor what kids want.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to provide variety, but at the same time, I think this is a district that really supports and values the arts. So sounds like you've come up with a good solution in cooperation with the music department. So,
yeah, lots of conversations. The next new class is called Creative Repurposing, so it's kind of that whole thought of taking something and repurposing it. So a DIY project, the flea market flip on HGTV, those types of things. So so that's Ann Jans. Ann Jans has lots of ideas, and she's like Gumby, so she gets stretched in lots of different ways. The next classes are our intervention classes, and we've been running those, but just wanted to make sure that everyone is clear. So we have an extra math class, and that's our bubble kids. So those kids that just are below the standard, where we want them to be. From a reading side, it's called Reading Power. So it's those kids that are just below, and you can see the criteria, and it's intentionally vague with the criteria, because we may have a kid that meets 2 of the 3 criteria, and the teacher says they really, really need to be in there, and then we're having conversations with parents, and the parents like, absolutely, let's give them that. So that's where you see the criteria. It doesn't say they have to be in 2 of the 3 or all 4. They have to meet all of the criteria to go into the class. We've had conversations as a staff about that, so just so you're aware. Then that RTI, that's that, if you think the bottom 20% of our kids that are not special ed. So, and it's really intensive, skill-based to fill the holes. And the best analogy I've ever heard, if you think about a dam, and there's just a little crack in the dam, the water starts leaking through, and over time, it's just flowing through, and then the dam collapses. What we're trying to do with these classes at the students' instructional level is fill that hole. And you need a tiered support in there, because there's different needs and different intensities of needs. So that's those classes. The next thing or the last thing that we've talked a lot about as a staff, and the 5th grade language arts teachers and Rose Gilbranson, 5th grade math, we've talked a lot about the honors classes. So right now, the 5th grade honors reading, language arts, and math are in the course catalog. So, but what we would propose is that we do not have honors classes in 5th grade. So they have the STARS program at the elementary. What we're finding over the last few years, the kids that are scheduled into those honors classes, we don't have enough typically that meet the criteria that we have set in the course catalog. So what we're doing is taking kids that are really hard workers and really smart kids, but they're not at that criteria, and we're putting them in. So you have 30 kids in the class, and we maybe 18 of them truly meet the honors criteria. Well, the other 12 don't meet that criteria. So it isn't a true honors class. And those 12 that we have in there, 2 months into the year, the teachers are saying, this kid over here actually has more ability and is displaying more now than they were in 4th grade. So we don't know the kids well enough to really do a good service to them. So what the teachers have said is, Ben, we're working really hard on Tier 1 instruction. Our goal this year is to have really rich Tier 1 instruction that meets the needs of all kids, and then we're differentiating to meet the needs of kids within our core classes. Whether it's an honors class or a regular class, 5th grade in particular has worked really hard. Across the board they have, but 5th grade has. When we create a singleton class, it creates issues from a scheduling standpoint, and you inadvertently lump those kids together. Now, Chelsea does a good job to try to pull kids apart, but what happens is you create a section and they kind of move throughout the day. So you're almost creating a haves and a have-nots, and it's not, all of the kids are not necessarily meeting that criteria. There is just a social dynamic in middle school of I made it and you didn't. So that's a reality, and when we don't have, when we can't truly say every kid is meeting that criteria, that's a hard dynamic to unpack with families. And then in order to fill the class, we've talked through that. So we're putting kids in. So what we would propose in just 5th grade is that we wouldn't do honors programming. I have full confidence in the teachers that they'll differentiate to meet the needs of the kids in there. And then we'll get to know the kids, and then we'll be able to place them appropriately as they move through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Yep.
Is that a new problem? Because I feel like in the past, like in personal experience, that there were more kids that should have been in, that maybe could have been in honors, that didn't qualify. So I'm surprised here there's not enough.
It's not a new problem. There's when we put the criteria in place 3 years ago, that's where kids that weren't from an MCA standpoint, a grade standpoint, or NWA, they weren't. We don't have enough of those kids that are meeting the criteria. We've got a lot of really good students, but when you break it down, my own kid, he's a really hard worker, but he's just below the standard, but he's in there to fill the class. So
what is the standard? What are the criteria to get in there?
It's in the, let me grab it here. So.
I can pull it. Is it in the registration?
It's in the registration book, yeah. So it is 3 standard deviation above exceeds. So if the exceeds cut score for 5th grade is 562, we would be looking at 565 would be the MCA standard. Then the 92nd percentile on NWA, teacher recommendation, and then we do a writing sample as well. So looking at 3 different, and then part of that teacher recommendation are grades.
So when a parent is looking at their MCA scores and their NWA scores, they would be able to tell if their kid would qualify?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We unpack it with them and talk through it, but.
Sandy?
Yep.
So I'm confused as to what we're voting on tonight. So, because this is what's in the registration handbook right now.
This is in the registration handbook. So what What we would like to do is remove it. But I didn't want to. We haven't, and we could bring it to Curriculum Tech Advisory and talk through it there to get some feedback. But you know, this is kind of a separate point to discuss.
Okay.
Outside of the handbook. It's in the handbook. We were planning on doing it just in the last, you know, month. The teachers have been pretty adamant that this isn't what's best for kids, Ben. So.
What isn't best?
Having honors.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So what we could do is we could approve the handbook as it is right now, and then maybe bring this discussion to curriculum committee and talk more, like flesh this out a little bit more, because I'm just not sure how I feel about it right now. I feel like I'd want to do some, find out more information, I guess. And so, I don't know, I guess but it would be okay to do that, because we could still remove it and just say, we just decided not to offer that piece, or?
And I would explain it just like I did. April 2nd is our new families night. So that's when our new fifth grade families are going to be coming, and we have our open house for fifth grade. Okay. And that's when I would explain it. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I could. I mean, if we don't get it done by then, because I'm thinking through, we have curriculum tech next week.
Right.
And we have a special meeting next Tuesday, so.
Right after that.
We could approve it that night.
Right now it's just a workshop, but
we could do a special meeting. Yeah. Right.
I think the thing that jumps out to me the most with this is the teachers doing this every day are saying it's not working and it's not best for kids. Okay. So, Tommy?
So is this like, how am I gonna word this? Okay, it sounds like the group of kids that you guys are looking at are not ready. So what if there's another group of kids that eventually come and exceeds all those expectations and stuff? So can this idea be brought up again, or?
Yeah, I mean, we would always revisit it year to year.
The best way to look at it, if you talk, Mr. Rakeberg talked about differentiated instruction. Okay, so a good example of that would be the celebration of learning. So students are able to produce a presentation. And there's a lot of different components that go into that. There's a video. There's a poster board. There's some structures and things like that. For example, kids have the ability, if they're, I mean, that's just one example of working at at different levels to produce a different level of product. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there are opportunities to showcase their abilities every day, really, in the type of instruction that's given. That's the idea behind, it's not just Jordan is using, but a lot of schools are going to, for example, the flipped classroom, or you know, the blended learning. Those are the different ideas behind those classes that kids can work at their own pace. I don't know that anybody's perfected it yet. It's sort of like that constant work in progress. So that, to me, is sort of the concept of differentiated instruction.
Is anybody flipping in the middle school?
Fifth grade math is, and Rose is continuing, and if she was standing here, she'd say the same thing. She's continuing to tweak and improve it. It's not a true flip, what you're seeing at the high school level. So there's a different, it's different than Mr. Casterton is doing. It's more of a personalized learning at the middle school.
How are we keeping those kids that aren't good at setting their own pace on track in flipped learning in that class?
That's one of the things Rose has been working on. So she has set guidelines that kids have to, or checkpoints they have to get through by certain dates, so that they're progressing through, so they're meeting, you know, they're getting to the point they need to get to by, you know, the end of the month or the end of the semester before MCAs.
So when did Rose start flipping?
Last year.
Have we looked at the data and dug into the data to see if there was a difference in test scores for math when she started flipping compared to when she did not start flipping?
The last 2 years, our fifth grade scores have not been where we want them to be. So
They what?
They have not been where we want them to be. So, but it's you can't make a direct correlation to the personalized learning that she's doing. So it's a 1 year snapshot that we're able to look at. So you would never make a decision based off of 1 year. Now, if we continue to see patterns, then we have to look at it.
Okay, so then how long has ninth grade been flipping?
At least 3 years.
So in ninth grade, we have a historical reference of 4 years. How can we dig into that data? Are we like digging into, I don't know, ACT, SAT scores to see where, how our math is working?
Well, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I think we want to get through events
Yeah.
and stuff first.
Yeah, this is really off track. This isn't what we're discussing right now. I think that's another topic, Lauren, that maybe needs to happen.
Okay.
Either at a workshop meeting or, because we have a huge agenda to get through.
Okay.
And so unless you're gonna bring it to a point where it specifically applies to this, I think we should.
Well, I wasn't sure until
Okay.
I explored it. So if it needs to be done at a different time, Deb, certainly we can
Is
do
that
it at a
okay?
different time.
Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so maybe put that down as a discussion.
But I think the other thing with this though is
Thanks.
the fifth grade honors. Once we have the students in the building for a year, teachers have a good assessment beyond just test scores, right? And so they can look at something beyond just how they test. Some kids don't test well. Maybe there's other opportunities there as well. And so I guess the way I see it personally is if the teachers are resounding, this doesn't make sense and it hasn't made sense for years, and why are we doing it? They're the experts. So that's just my personal viewpoint on this one.
I do too, and I look at it from the social dynamics that has been alluded to, that it created, and I think sometimes that's almost doing more harm than good.
Especially as a fifth grade, new school.
Yeah.
You add that extra peer pressure in an already tough situation.
Right. But then what's the transition to sixth grade? Does it go back to honors?
There is honors. We have honors in 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's just we're re-baselining in 5th grade is how I would position this.
So, but you're still going to have that social, emotional, peer pressure in 6th, 7th, and 8th. So, what is the plan to address that if that's part of the reason we're doing this in 5th grade?
Madam Chair, what I would suggest is maybe you pull some data from other school districts and how many of them have honors programming in their middle schools at all. I would guess that we're one of few.
I have a question.
So that's the trend more and more that you're seeing, is people are going away from honors programming because we're moving more in a personalized project-based way where kids can explore and express and show what they know more than just an MCA score. So, and I would say that there are much, much better measures than the MCAs. So I don't put all my eggs in that basket. It's an important measure, and we have to look at it, and we can pull data and look at that. But I think there's a lot more measures of success than just these test scores that we're using to group kids into classes. So.
I mean, if you look at the whole picture of the whole kid with their whole social development and stuff, I guess I feel too that if the teachers feel this is the best way to go, then I would be willing to do that. Tommy, you wanted to say something?
I just had a quick question. Is 5th grade the entry level for middle school here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, Sandy?
I guess I definitely trust the teachers. I know that this is kind of a bigger change than I think the other things that are in the thing. And if we can, because all of this really is supposed to go through the curriculum committee, and because of timing or whatever, it hasn't. And so I guess I would feel more comfortable, and the curriculum committee is next week. I would just feel more comfortable if we could pull this piece off, discuss it at curriculum committee, vote on it next week. I mean, I think we could vote on the rest of it tonight, because if you already have that in there, does that make sense? Is anybody uncomfortable with that?
I'm not uncomfortable with that. I'm fine with it.
Is that doable for you?
Yeah,
that's
For your
the other question.
presentation and
Absolutely.
for
That's
planning for next
yeah,
year?
that's simple and yeah, that's very doable. If we, you know, and even if it's an item down the line and we have to say and communicate out, this is why we made the change, then we just communicate that out to our families and this is why we're doing what we're doing. So absolutely.
Okay, more questions? Otherwise,
I guess if we're going to wait and if the trend is that honors goes away, do we just look at it holistically in our middle school then? If we're going to wait and take a week, then maybe we look holistically, take the extra week and say, does it make sense?
exactly.
Good idea.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'll pull the data, I'll look at what surrounding schools are doing and go from there.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because especially with the social dynamics, I mean, the middle school years are tough enough.
Do you think though there will be any concern with having stars in the elementary school, then going to the middle school, not having honors, and then going to the high school, and then having honors? So, I mean, maybe you should look at it completely.
That's a good point.
Yeah. If a school does not have honors programming, I'll look at how they're meeting the needs of their top kids. Because even the STARS program at the elementary is serving a smaller population than our honors programming is serving. So.
Because
Thank you.
you're gonna have like AP classes and CIS classes. We don't want to take those away. And those are, in essence, kind of honors classes. So.
Yeah.
I think that's significantly different.
It is, but I'm just saying that that's going to create that social piece as well, because you're gonna have those one standalone classes as well, so.
We also still want to make sure we're still preparing kids, even though we don't have honors, to have the ability to take those classes in high school.
Yeah.
Correct.
I have no doubt, I don't mean to jump in, I have no doubt that our teachers at the middle school would be able to differentiate and push our kids. So.
Okay, so at this point, thank you, Mr. Bakeberg. I guess I'm looking for a motion of some kind, so.
I feel like I should do it just because I'm asking to pull. I mean, I don't know how to do it though.
Well, it's not in there, so I think.
Just approve the handbook?
Yep. And you could even add at the end of the motion with the idea that 5th grade and all middle school honors program will be under review via, you know, a data study and also input from the Curriculum and Technology Advisory Committee.
Did you get that, Hope? So moved.
Second. Okay, Connie, okay, further discussion on this? I think to Lauren's point, I think it would be a good idea for us to review this all the way through. And just,
Good idea.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I
Pardon?
did.
Oh,
Connie
I
did.
did.
Connie did, yeah. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, good discussion. Review and act on the district's brand usage guidelines and regulations. You guys, we're gonna be here long tonight.
Okay. So we would have also had you review and act on the identity toolkit and the actual brand manual, but there's a few additional tweaks that we want to make. So we kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't call it putting the cart before the horse, but we wanted to address this because there are things that are out there that that we need to provide them, some organizations, some groups that we need to provide them with some specific direction, some answers. So we're far enough in the process for you to review this piece of it. So I'll just go through it really quickly with you. So we recently, as we all know, completed a rebranding effort, and it's now, at least in my opinion, important for us to lock down and protect that brand in order for us to improve and to preserve the integrity of those logos and those marks, our nicknames, our fonts, as we know, those of us who have been associated with the school district for a long time or lived here for a long time, over time, it doesn't matter where you are, eventually a brand gets tweaked and becomes out of control. So this is an effort to maintain our integrity of the work, the extensive work that's been done over the last, and actually work that's costed us money over the past 18 months. So I've attached the identity toolkit for your review. I can open that if you wish. But what I'm looking for tonight is a couple pieces. First of all, I think internal use is really cut and dried. The district's brand may be used by students and staff to include coaches and advisors freely without modification, as long as the guidelines within the identity toolkit are followed. It is recommended that students and staff seek assistance from the communications and marketing department when utilizing all parts of our brand. The level of usage is only acceptable if used for district purposes, so in-house, okay? So that's, to me, is done. I don't think there's a whole lot of tweaking that you can do. Now, this is where I think there's going to be some robust discussion, because I've listed an A and a B. You could sit down a week later and probably list a different A and a B, or a C and a D. So it really is, I flip-flop, be honest with you, just very upfront, back and forth, because I can see benefits to both of these options. And there's probably an option that exists that we haven't put on paper yet, okay? So option A was that we're just going to lock it down. Associations and organizations would not be allowed to use our actual district Hubman, Jaguar, or Panther logos or marks at any time. While the district can't prevent these organizations from using the name Hubman or Jaguars, the district is able to limit the use of our actual font, logos, marks, and overall brand. So, and again, this is not an all-inclusive list. Some of the rationale or the components of that to protect perceptions of academic and activities integrity. For example, if those organizations or the coaches or the advisors within those organizations engage in poor behavior, we are often lumped into that, and it's a type of misconduct. And obviously we'd like to create a visual separation in those instances. It allows us to just be very clean in obtaining or maintaining our tax exempt status. Avoids the appearance of endorsing non-Jordan entities, and ensures accurate representations about its relationships with other organizations. The district does not control these associations or organizations. This could be a positive or negative, and they do not represent Jordan Public Schools directly. It is certain that the district would lose some control over the integrity of the brand over time and not be able to police the modification of the brand. It's impossible. It's going to be difficult no matter what you decide. We just don't have enough people, boots on the ground, or time to do it. Associations and organizations may choose to use alternative Hubman and Jaguar logos unless permission to use our brand is granted. Now that could be a positive or negative too. You know, you might have a totally different looking Jaguar out there, or the Hubman train might be out there and the association might use it. So that could be a potential negative if you feel that that's not something that we want to go down that road. So option B is we open it up and we allow the associations and organizations to use it, but we ask them to obtain permission to do so from our communications and marketing department. And permission must be sought by completing the trademark authorization request form. So again, if you'd like me to open that, I certainly can. The rationale behind that, it provides cohesiveness between the district and the associations. I mean, there are kids, most likely, most of the time, 99% of them are Jordan school district students. It may be more cost effective in regards to merchandising and clothing purchases, so that's kind of just looking out from the family's parents' perception. The associations and organizations may choose to use alternative Hubman and Jaguar logos. You see that that one's up above as well, because I think it could be a positive or negative to, in both categories. But that can lead to confusion and misbranding of school marks. If you choose to allow our brand to be used, then I would suggest an annual contract that must be signed by the associations or organizations, which will include language that calls for strict adherence to district policies, procedures, Title IX guidelines, and overall agreement to follow the district's branding guidelines as outlined in the identity toolkit. Again, policing it is the challenge, okay? The reality is we don't have any control. For example, I'll just use this. The Jordan Basketball Association does not use our brand. They haven't in the past. They don't. I don't think they have any plans to use it in the future. We don't control them. JBA, JBA, the Jordan Football Association, that's in the works right now. I know Stephen is working on it through community ed, some memorandum of understanding. They all could choose to use an alternative Hubman. There's nothing that we can do to stop that. So the question is, I mean, the point might be moot, because they may say, you know, we don't want to use it. You could choose option B, and they could say, we don't want to use it, we want to use the train. And there's nothing we can do to stop that. On the other hand, you could let them use it, and there's really nothing other than a piece of paper,
right,
and relying on our staff to police it and then get into a verbal disagreement. But we don't want our logos modified in any way, so you might find a logo embedded into another logo that's not district approved.
Yeah. It's complicated, because I could see the basketball team wanting to put a basketball in the hands of the...
Yeah. So I looked at about, let's say it was a half a dozen other schools. I think Eden Prairie would be a good example. They just went through a rebranding process. If you look at their associations, a lot of them use the old logos, school district logos, prior to the rebranding effort, but they are not allowed. Eden Prairie School District is no longer allowing associations to use their district brand. On the flip side, New Prague schools just went through a rebranding effort, and they allow them to use all of their logos on non-school district affiliated association clothing.
And who manages that? The AD? Or how do they propose it? Who's the police?
I don't know.
Be the same place in either way, you know. I mean, to your point, it's impossible.
Boy, we
what was
spent
the
a lot.
perception in Eden Prairie when their associations could not use their logos?
I don't know.
I mean, just my point of view on this one is I think continuity is key. I think to the point around, you know, you have kids in middle school through association and kids in varsity programs, and you have different, you know, logos and branding. To me, it doesn't show unity and continuity across the district with the associations, and I think it shows a divide, which I don't think we have, but I think the perception could be there. So I think for the families, allowing and extending the opportunity for these associations to use our branding makes the most sense. Leave it up to them. Right now, I could speak from the basketball association. The perception is we can't use it, and so we haven't. That's why that's there, and it's intentionally a different logo for that reason. I don't know what would happen if we said, hey, use the different logos that are part of the district, if they take it or not. I can't speak to that, but I think it would definitely streamline things for us.
Connie?
We spent a lot of time on this to come with one understanding of what a Hubman is, one understanding of what a Jaguar is. I don't know how the policing would work, but a lot of people from a lot of different fields came to the table a lot of times to make this decision. My only question is then would that force the associations to buy the uniforms and everything the way the rest of the teams are required?
Shouldn't. It's just the branding. It's the use of a logo on wherever they purchase their equipment and clothing from.
I mean, I think what we could try is, if that's the choice, we'd provide the wording and the forms and stuff like that, and say, if you're going to use the name Hubman or Jaguars, this is what you need to use, because this is a school district owned.
We own it.
And you have to use this font, you have to use this logo.
This color.
They may say, you know what, we can be the Hubman or the Jaguars, and we can put whatever logo we want on there, because it's not governed by you as a school district.
Yep.
We would hope, that's Jesse, where your point of view comes in, we would hope that there's enough continuity and enough desire to have continuity that you know, those associations adhere to that. But they could choose, like the Jordan Basketball Association just has like a basketball, and it says JBA on the short uniform and Jordan, I believe, on the shirt. There's no Hubman or logo on those.
Nope, not today.
But I know, like, the Softball Association has an alternative Jaguar, and I believe after conversations with Jeremy, actually Highcamp, that, you know, with innovative graphics, that they've already moved forward. I didn't have the conversation, but Kat had the conversation. They've already moved forward with that design for this year's stuff, and we just, I don't know how you handle that.
I mean, it'd just be so much easier for everyone to say, here's your logo, go use it. And I think everybody would. It's one less headache from an association perspective that you have to worry about, you know? And parents, I'd prefer it as a parent personally. Like, I could buy something through the softball association and it's the same logo that I wear at a varsity event. You know, it's that continuity I think is so important, especially in our community. Or I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, and I think it builds a sense of pride from little on, that, hey, I'm a Jaguar, or I'm a Hubman.
Right.
On the flip side, the negative I can see is these associations are out of our control. So if there's misbehavior or misrepresentation, or God forbid something awful that happens, it's our logo on there. So that's the negative side I see. And
it happens now, regardless.
It does.
So there is kind of that association anyway. I'll be honest, I was really absolutely not, and then I became more of a, I really can see the positives to allowing it, if we're able to, to really say, you can't modify this. Absolutely not. If you're going to use it, you can't modify it.
Well, and I agree, I agree that, we don't want to have a divide and all of that. But I feel, every year I get questions from parents who are in the associations, why do you have practice on Sundays? We don't have practice on Sundays. That's the association. So they are confused as to which is which. And that's being like new, and eventually they understand it, I'm assuming. But I think there's already a blurring, and so I think I'm worried that this will create more of it, although I can really see the benefits to it as well. I'm really back and forth on this one.
Yeah, I mean, this gets, Sandy, you bring up a good point, and I think it gets into, I'm going to speak, probably go outside just a little bit. This speaks, one of the pieces on the district survey that we conducted was, why does the district allow for example, a fire truck escort out of town for the football team, but doesn't allow it for cross country and tennis and et cetera, et cetera? The fact of the matter is the district didn't even do that. That was organized by parents outside of school district control. And anybody could do that if they had a contact at the fire department or the police department, whoever, and they agreed to do it. But it's along the same lines. The perception is that the district is organizing at. The perception is that the district controls JBA or JBAR or whatever, and then maybe it's just a matter of creating a frequently asked questions and posting on our website about these types of things. Just to try to educate as much as we can.
So are you looking for a decision on this tonight?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask
Connie?
we can't even get all of our sports in the same season to have the same kind of programs. And that's school run. This is a big deal, guys. And I think I felt some pain this last year when the fall sports, one had fabulous programs at their event, and then I went to Mimeograph, just run off things, and I felt that those girls were equally as valuable as the boys, but we didn't have control over that because that was a coach or a AD choice too. So I think I want it across the board. Whatever we decide, I want us together, all of us to decide, and I don't know how it can be policed, but I want it fair for all of the kids.
I can speak to the programs. They're going to be uniform.
Thank you.
No matter what season it is going forward, and we've already had some of those conversations. You know, Joe as AD with Booster Club about some of those pieces, because it's, you know, as we've grown, things change, and it's just that constant. You need to constantly review to make sure. You know, Jesse, you went to that session at MSBA regarding Title IX. That is, I mean, it's long, but it's really some good information that you have to sift through. Part of it is, you know, people power, and as we've evolved as a district and grown, we actually have some different types of positions and different ways that we manage these pieces. I would suggest that going forward, we're going to be a better spot, and then we'll identify something else that we're not. To me, that's the mark of a good district, and you can't beat yourself up for saying, well, we're doing this wrong, so we must not be any good. I mean, I think it's a matter of do it, learn about it, make the adjustments, move on. And I think that's what makes you effective. If you do it, learn about it, don't make the adjustments, that's what makes you ineffective.
Thank you.
Lauren, did you have any thoughts on this? Any opinions?
I am along the lines of option B, but I'm too, and flip-flopping with A and B, but I'm along the lines of option B, so we do have that continuity. They have the associations should have the option to use our logo and branding if they so choose.
And
I would hope, though, that it would be, I would hope that if they're going to use it, I don't know, maybe you should think about this. If you're going to use it, you have to use it across the board. You can't have 5th grade using one logo, 6th grade using another logo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, and I don't see that as probably going to be an issue. I think if the organization decides to do that, they're going to use it universally.
Yep.
The only concern I have, there's always a but the concern I have is how do you enforce it? So let's just say somebody takes your brand and modifies it. What's the consequence?
Well, it's printed on $10,000 worth of uniforms already.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is can happen pretty quick.
I mean, the consequence could be that you lose rights for it for 3 years or 5 years or whatever we decide. I mean, it could happen, but you could make that a part of the, you know, the agreement or the contract. Like, if you misbrand or misuse of these logos, you lose rights to them for 3 years, something like that.
And what if they say?
And what if they don't? You know, what are the
What if they
consequences?
say, stop it?
We already did it.
I know.
Yeah, we already
This
did
is
it.
one of those things where we don't have any teeth.
But it's even to your point, though, people could do that right now. They just don't. They really could. I mean, we could create this GA and look really, really close to what it looks like now, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I'm going to give credit to New Prague in this area. When their school district says, you know, this is our brand, you need to use it this way, from what I've seen, it's been adhered to. And there has to be a community connection and a sense of pride and responsibility to maintain integrity.
That's right.
You know, it shouldn't be this rogue, we're going to do what we want to do because we can do it type of thing. If we truly want to build stronger programming, then we've all got to get on the same page.
Yep.
I agree.
That's well said. Very well said.
Okay, so we had a point for a motion. And we still can discuss.
I just am nervous with, I would love to hear from Rob and tell him I wish they were here to.
You can certainly, I would say, postpone it definitely till next Tuesday. We already are having established a special meeting potentially anyway. So I think that is certainly, I need to give, I know one group in particular is waiting on a decision, so that was the, you know, and we weren't able to have a workshop, or we didn't have a workshop in February, so I think it's reasonable to say we can even bring this to workshop and then have our special meeting afterwards.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion of some kind.
I move that we table the.
Postpone,
or
definitely.
We indefinitely.
No, postpone definitely.
Postpone definitely.
We definitely.
We postpone
We postpone definitely the rebanding process until the Tuesday night work session.
Okay, we have a motion. That would be the
19th.
19th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
Does this have to be a all or nothing? I mean, would all the associations have to agree, or it's just would be what our policy is, and then
All this is saying is that
We're opening it up.
We will share with the associations that you may use our brand. This is how these are the rules that you have to adhere to. They can choose to do that or not.
Okay.
My last comment was suggesting that I hope that they choose to do that. It may not be this year or this summer or this next fall because it might be too late for those things, but I hope that going forward that that's the choice, just so we can start moving in the same direction.
Further discussion, questions? Hearing none and voting on the motion to postpone this definitely to our March 19th meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I, Madam Chair, may I provide an update?
Okay, that's what I was just gonna ask. Does anybody have a score? I do.
It's 36-16 Hubman at the half, or in other words, Ryan Samuelson 17 and GSL 16.
All right.
So Ryan's having a night.
Good.
Fingers crossed. Okay. Review and act on the notice. Oh, I have to pull this up here. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't get timed out. Oh, shoot.
Nope.
You have it up there?
I do.
Okay, I gotta pull it up here.
Right here.
Okay, so, we're renewing, we are acting on the notice of termination and non-renewal of Leo Willard, who was our industrial tech teacher this year. You are hereby notified, dear Mr. Willard, you are hereby notified that at a regular meeting of the School Board of Independent School District number 717 held on March 11th, 2019, a resolution was adopted by a majority roll call vote to terminate your contract effective at the end of the current school year and not to renew your contract for 2019-2020 school year. Said action of the board is taken pursuant to Minnesota State Statutes 122A.40 subdivision 5. You may officially request that the school board gives its reasons for the non-renewal of your teaching contract. So I will entertain a motion to approve the notice of termination and non-renewal for Leo Willard.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Connie, discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Jesse Erdahl.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'm not gonna read the whole resolution each time, but I'll just say that we're voting on a notice of termination and non-renewal for Madeline Roush. the same verbiage that I just read for Leo, so I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Sandy, discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Jesse Erdahl.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have the notice of termination and non-renewal for Amanda Olmes. Same verbiage. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Connie, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say, roll call.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Jesse Erdahl.
Yes.
Okay, oops. And the next one is, notice of termination and no, where am I here? Number 4. I screwed up. But that's,
13.
that's not a termination.
Yeah, it is.
I know.
We just hired him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a notice of termination and non-renewal of Mark Piskins. I'll entertain a motion.
Do we?
We're hiring him tonight.
Yes.
We just hired him.
We just hired him.
You just hired him,
Yeah,
right?
we just hired him,
Correct.
but he's a long-term sub, so now we're gonna terminate
Yep.
him at the
So-
end.
Oh, gotcha.
The
Yes,
Minnesota-
yeah.
Oh.
Madam Chair, may I explain?
Yes, please.
The Minnesota School Boards Association recommends that any any teacher that you hire as a long-term sub, of which all of the ones that we've gone through thus far have been, that you do a termination and non-renewal at the end of the contract. Otherwise, there is potential for that. We haven't had the opportunity, for example, to do some of the, in some cases, Mark would be a good example to do all of the evaluations necessary to determine whether or not you want to move forward with him as a candidate. So if we were to do, there's potential that he could become a tenured employee,
Right.
because he's achieved tenure elsewhere. So that's the recommendation
Okay.
of MSBA.
Got it.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, so we have a notice of termination and non-renewal of Mark Biskins. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Jesse? Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Lauren, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, roll call.
Roll call, thank you. Roll call.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Jesse Erdahl.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We have the notice of termination and non-renewal for Maria Swank. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Connie, discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Jesse Erdahl.
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.15, review and act on teacher and special assignment job description. Mr. Helgerson?
This is a new job description, therefore it is in the, as an action item instead of a consent agenda item. We have not had this position in our district in prior years. So the principals met and created this job description based off of what we discussed at our board retreat, and are asking for your approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion, then we can discuss. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Jesse, is there a second?
Second.
Sandy, okay. Questions, discussion? So this is basically what, when we had our board retreats and we were talking about creating this position, this is
Yes.
covering all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So essentially, just for the public, this teacher on special assignment will be It's an internal application process. It'll be, unless we didn't have applicants, which I know is not true, so we do have applicants at this point because it's been posted. So it's teachers that are interested and have displayed exemplary skills, classroom instruction skills, and these individuals will work with our other classroom teachers, and it's broken up into K4 and 512, and observe, provide feedback. In some cases, they may teach a lesson to model instructional
Best practices.
Yeah, best practices, and it's intended to be a non-threatening way to help improve teaching and learning. It's probably an overview that I can provide.
Further questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Woohoo! We're on to 10. Superintendent's report, and it's a big one.
Yeah. I'll try to be succinct. How about that? No comments.
I'll call you Steven.
Our March enrollment was pretty much held pretty tight to where we were in February. I think we're 3 students different, I believe. So we're standing at 1,892 students. That does not include our tuition students. So that does reflect 1 less adjusted preschool student. So what that means is if we have 36 preschoolers, you divide it in half because you get half the funding. So 1 less pre-K, 1 more K4, 1 less 5 through 8, and 2 less 9 through 12 grade students. So actually I think that's pretty good. Usually this time of the year, we often see a little bit more volatility. And in the spring, we typically see sort of an uptick. So families move or families make adjustments in the spring. So at least that's over the last 5 years, that's what we've seen. Just for to refresh, our what if budget count was 1,852 students. So it represents about $250,000 in additional revenue for our district, of which, we've certainly spent some of that money, but we've also added to our unassigned fund balance as Amy's reported, or projected to add to our unassigned fund balance. The referendum timelines and information, I attached a document to my report that will help us in developing specific timelines associated with our planned November 2019 referendum. For everybody's purposes, specific details regarding that referendum will be soon announced to the public. What we're doing first is having conversations with our staff internally, and also we have a facilities committee meeting that that committee has really been instrumental in developing these long-range goals, facility goals, and we want to make sure that we inform them prior to making a public announcement.
I have a question about that. The timeline on the voting. Are all the votes done here for a school? If it's strictly a school election, or if it's the first Tuesday after first Tuesday after the first Monday, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do the townships hold their own voting spots?
No.
We have that combined election.
Polling place.
Polling place resolution that we have to approve every year. And that's saying if we have an election outside of the general election day, all the polling places are combined.
However, if the townships have an election, then it would be held there, is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
The reason I'm asking is because Sand Creek Township is changing their polling place, and I noted the timeline deadline for notice of change of voting places December 31st of 18. So if that's the case, we wouldn't be able to meet that.
But I don't know that it's applicable to us, because that's something that they would put on the ballot. This is a school district. So we're not changing our polling place.
Okay, so they would have to come, if there would be something there, they would have to go to the township to vote, and then they would have to come here to vote on the school.
Well, I think we'll
Piece?
certainly get
Okay.
clarification on that, but
Okay.
there's also the potential for an absentee ballot.
Right, well, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
That's a good question. I think that's something we can find the answer to. So, as noted in the timeline, we need to have a resolution passed by August 23rd. I'm sure we'll do it prior to that time. And I did attach, just for board members' reference, and we'll also go through this with our employees, the guidelines for our district's referendum. We must, as employees of the district, and you are employees of the district, you're only allowed to share fact-based information when it comes time to sharing information about our referendum. So at future meetings, we'll discuss the intricate details. There's review and comment guidelines. Amy Haferman and I discussed like a mid-June, just having it submitted to the Department of Ed. Our colleagues think that July 15th is acceptable, but I think we best get it in June, because there is a little bit of delay in their review. So what the review and comment is the Minnesota Department of Ed has to review what the district is looking at in terms of a bond referendum, what the components of that are, and they have to provide us with feedback. So they can either provide a positive or a negative review and comment. And then there are different guidelines. If it's a negative review and comment, there's different rules. If it's a positive, then there's different rules for that. That's usually put together by the architect in cooperation with the district. Our spring school schedules, obviously the last couple weeks have illustrated just how busy spring can be with our girls and now our boys running deep into playoffs, band concerts. We've had multiple concert venues and PAC meetings and all those different things. So as we look outside and we see that there's roughly 2 feet of snow on the ground, I know that we're going to struggle this spring, and we're supposed to get 2 inches of rain this week. So I think it's just important. I put this on there, just important to remember that we will do everything we can to honor families and their commitments, but it's not always possible, and we have to get things in when we can get them in. And I know that, you know, we work with St. John's and Hope about honoring Wednesday nights. There's a certain point in time, and I don't have the date memorized, in which faith formation sort of is completed. So we will look potentially to do makeups after that point in time. But I just want everybody to be aware that I wouldn't want to be the ADs this year.
No, for sure.
Hiring process. We've got a number of positions posted. We posted another one today, as I mentioned earlier, the IT position. Just a reminder to our public, if they're reading my board report, that they can apply online at our employment site directly on our website. We use AppleTrack, and it's an electronic filing. It's also available on all the major websites. MASA has a job board. EdPost has a job board. So we try to post in all the different major employment sites. An idea that I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Ben and Jeff shared this idea with me and our administrative team, and we really grew it from there. So we will be hopefully hosting what we're calling a Jordan Public Schools New Teacher Symposium. We're going to do it this Sunday night after Celebrate Jordan. And we have a posting out on all those job boards right now, with the idea that we want to see if there are people who are interested in coming to that. So you can see in italics what that reads on the job board. The goal is to really, I think, give back. Is that right, gentlemen? So give back to new teachers who are just coming into the field. So we want to provide them with an opportunity to come and take a tour of our district, have a meal together. Just by networking with each other and with administrators from our district, we think that is that's a benefit. Then we're going to do a Q&A, more of a program to educate those new candidates what to do and not to do when you're going through an interview process. And I think the ultimate goal, at least from a selfish point of view, is that we might find some really quality candidates. And that may lead to future interviews and jobs. So you can see an overview of the evening at 4:30. We're going to do a tour. At 5:30, we're going to do a dinner, and our hope is to have our food service do sort of like maybe a nice Chinette style paper plate type dinner. Maybe like fried chicken and that type of thing. So that's what we were thinking there, and then a workshop and program to follow. So what we done, and again, push people to this site as well, out in the community and also as board members. If candidates are out there and are interested in attending, they're to email hr@isd717.org, and that's their sort of their, hey, I'm interested in coming, I'd like more information. So that's their RSVP, and then we'll send out more information prior to that event. Now, if nobody registers or no one sends us an email, then we aren't going to do it. But we hope that this might be something that candidates are interested in. And then here, if you haven't done so already, you can click on this, and we've started doing this as a way to highlight our district on our postings. It's Adobe Spark is the name of the program, and actually last Friday at Scale I used this presentation, and we were the Scale hosts, and I just went through just the highlights here. So this is just a way for candidates to get a snapshot of our district and hopefully draw them in and so that they'll want to be a part of our school community. So again, if you haven't had a chance, please take a look. I think it's nice. We're going to do some tweaks based off of feedback I got from Scale, but it's a good start.
It's very well done.
It's captivating.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't Matt, so. All right. Clicked on my thing. I think a couple more. I had legislative update. I'm not going to go through specifics there. I try to send them to you every week as I get them. I got the other one today. I'll send that out to you from MASA. I think MASA does a nice job of theirs. I think it's pretty comprehensive. See the snow day relief bill. I don't know that really impacts us that much. We don't have to do anything at this point. Some special education bills that are there, graduation requirements, bills related to teacher shortages, the school safety and student support, and then just kind of an overview of what committee meetings would be ahead. And there is a link to the bill tracking. Again, you have that, and hopefully you can click on that if you're interested and check it out. Celebrate Jordan is coming up. It's Sunday, April 7th, and it will be held again in the Cirque from 1 to 4. I will send you as board members and our admin team a sign up. Jesse, as new to the board, we just staff our booth, and we have some giveaways, and sometimes we have beanbag toss, sometimes we have a video going on, and just a way to chat with people that are coming through. And then we also do a Celebrating Outstanding Jordan Youth program. That's at 3:30. I just need a couple of board reps that would be interested in that as well, so that's going to be on the sign up. So I'll get that out this week. Teachers on Call February report. We've got a ton of absences. 1,320 absences, which was in a fairly decent fill rate, 83%, and that is both for paraprofessionals and teachers combined. but gosh, that's a lot of absences. So it's something that, you know, we certainly will continue to take a look at. I didn't talk about it, but Region 5 is the business software organization that we belong to. They're looking at either redoing their roof and doing some tuck pointing or building a new building. They're looking at what's most cost effective. It really doesn't affect us, except for the fact that they'll probably raise fees. So it's just something for you to be aware of. Does anybody want me to click on anything and dive deeper?
I just want to give a shout out. Mr. Helgerson testified again this week on the fire safety drill bill. So that's moving right along and has a lot of good support. So thank you for doing that.
I heard he's on staff at St. Francis for knee replacement or whatever. He earned his scrubs
Yeah,
this
you know,
week.
I tell you that some of those tools are pretty fun. So I did get a chance to go to the Deb invited me to the Saints Foundation. It was called Earn Your Scrubs event. It was at St. Francis last week. It was fantastic. One of the breakouts or the tour pieces was we got to go in their orthopedic surgery room, and they had the power tools. It's like these drills with these special drill bits that go through bone. But we got to do it on fake bone, so I got to use one of their saws and cut through a femur, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. So.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
I would definitely not have been a good doctor.
Any questions for? Okay. Thank you. Score update?
60-38, 9:26 left.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's safe to say we're playing Friday night.
Yeah.
Although I watched Wisconsin yesterday, I'm a Wisconsin fan, and they blew a 23-point lead and went to overtime. Ended up winning, but so stranger things can.
Well,
Can
and
happen.
Glencoe cut the lead up to 14 at one time, so they went on a run. So.
Okay. Jordan High School board reports. Jeff, is there anything, Mr.
Any questions? Actually, you know what, I'm going to highlight two things, because I know what time it is. All right?
Actually, it's 3 minutes after 8.
Yeah.
So you got all kinds of time.
3 minutes after 8, old time. I'll be saying that for the next 2 weeks.
I wanted to highlight, we already talked about harmonics, that was on my list. Want to highlight the March 19th, what is it called again?
Warp Speed.
Warp Speed, that's the social media usage for parents. It's a parents' night. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. Check the website, there's more information on that. It's really important information. And just to tie into that, today Miss Valerius was doing a lesson where, I guess it was on Facebook and places too, but she asked the kids to have their phones out there doing their work, and they were to monitor all of their notifications, and every time they got a notification, they put a mark on the board, whether it was Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, and 2 class periods, 70 students, over 700 notifications in 2 class periods for the students. And that's just the ones that admitted, and that was also, they were not supposed to reply to anything they got during that time. Does that sound about accurate, Tommy?
I don't even get that much notifications on my phone. I don't use my stuff a lot, except for Netflix and other stuff. That's pretty much
So, just interesting. I don't think people realize how much it's influencing people, and maybe younger students it's more active too.
That's actually surprising. I was kind of shocked.
Also, our counselors and health teacher, Ms. Valerius, at our staff meeting last week did a wellness activity. I think they also did it at the middle school. Was just giving them more mindfulness type activities to use too, which was really cool. And lastly, our health careers course, I sat in on their class last Friday. They had to St. Gertrude's 4 days a week, and Tommy could also fill in on this. But they did a really cool activity where they started out talking about nerves, nerve endings. It was a really hands-on lesson, and then it ended with students kind of learning what it would be like if they were to have dementia or Alzheimer's, and some different tools they used, and just, it was pretty amazing to see. They had goggles they had to use, and they had latex gloves on with their fingers, but just some really cool things happening in that class. I don't know if there's anything you want to add about that, Tommy.
No, it's very fun. We've had a lot of speakers from like St. Gertrude's and St. Francis come and talk about like different parts of like the hospital, not only like the nursing part, but we had like I forgot what he was called, but he works like he runs the facility at the hospital, so he came and like talked to us about like how like healthcare isn't only about like doctors, nurses. It's also about like if your patient feels like safe inside their room, if they're feeling hot, they're feeling cold, if certain technology works today, and all that stuff. So it was a nice, talk or discussion.
Good. Just to give Tommy, you and your fellow classmates a compliment. Yvonne, one of the people that was our point of contact as we were building this relationship and starting this program, said Jordan kids are superior and in their interest level and also on how you conduct yourself. So nice job.
Good. Yes. So Deb, thank you for getting us that that connection too.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Visner. Mr. Bakeberg, middle school.
I'll make this quick. Famous last words. So 2 quick highlights. I've talked about it before, but it's called Web Through the Boomerang Project, and it's a middle school transition program that my previous district did, and it was game-changing for the culture and climate of the building. So we sent Colleen Chambers, Ansley Peters, Nate Kuchera, and Kaylee Doherty. So 4 staff members to be trained to be web coordinators. They're presenting at our staff meeting tomorrow, so they'll be heading up a web program at the middle school in the future. So really excited about that and the impact that that's going to have on the middle school. We had our Flexible Learning Day conferences on February 21st. It was successful once again, 89% attendance from our families. A shout out to the high school and the multicultural class. They came and they worked with kids. We're talking about some tweaks to do in the future and structuring it similar to how the high school does their PBIS reward day. So if we can continue to have high school kids come over, kids that are putting some criteria in place for kids that are passing classes and doing well, then they would have the flex day. Kids that are not, then they would come to school and get support. So we're finding that the kids that come to school get a ton done and get caught up. So it's been really successful. And our grade level teams are talking about different things that they're seeing and needs at their grade levels. We have the Arts Extravaganza. It's done now for 5th and 6th grade. Tomorrow night is our 7th and 8th grade Arts Extravaganza, and then we have a 5-12 band concert on Monday night. So it's a busy time right now, but a lot of fun stuff happening.
Right, and Wolfridge went well.
Yeah, Wolfridge was outstanding. It was, it was a great trip. So. Tommy?
Questions, Tommy?
I didn't go to Wolfridge. I think I went to Deep Portage. So like, is Wolfridge kind of like a bonding type of thing?
Yeah.
Or?
It's the same. It's an environmental learning center, so same as Deep Portage, similar activities, and it was the 6th grade team did an outstanding job planning it, and multiple parents commented that it was just seamless. So they did a great job. Parents were great. We had a great group of parents as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Bakeberg? Thank you. Thanks for being with us tonight. Okay, Melissa's report, elementary principals. Questions or comments? Were you surprised with the kindergarten numbers for Roundup?
Yeah.
No, you weren't? You were expecting that?
We sent out 190.
Oh. Well, I just thought that number is up for Roundup.
Last year, I think it was like
considerably.
85-ish last year. I hope we have a whole bunch more than 100.
Well, if there's 80, so there were 80 families that we haven't heard from, so that's
I
a
did,
lot.
if you use the same calculation as last year in percent that showed up to the actual enrollment number,
Okay.
we'd have 132 kids.
Okay, but that's
That'd be okay.
That'll play.
yeah.
Okay.
We'll take that.
Okay.
But you think about, and you know this, but what we're losing at the senior level and what we're
Yeah.
bringing at the kindergarten level. The last couple of years, they haven't even been close to matching up,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Carol's Director of Teaching and Learning report. Anything on that? Activity Director's reports. I think we'll probably have some discussion there.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight some things
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about the 6th graders and the cross-country running. Scott West, 5 of 5 individuals at state with medals, so congratulations to those wrestlers. Girls basketball also had a nice run, and congratulations to Kat on joining that 1,000 point club. And also was announced honorable mention All-State, is that right, Jesse?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On Friday? So, boys basketball is now winning 69-48 with 5 minutes to go. So they continue their run. So if they win, they play the 15th. So is that Friday?
Yep.
Yes.
Where will they play?
Mankato.
Mankato.
I don't know the time slot yet. Oh, it's supposed to be the 8
It's
o'clock.
7:30,
Because it's,
7:45,
because it's
I think.
1A goes first, so then
Yep.
it'd probably go around 8 o'clock, 7:45. One act play finished 3rd in our section 2, so that's just missing out on a chance to participate in the section finals. Floor hockey is going to state, so adapted floor hockey, so that's exciting. I believe that's this weekend.
If you've never had an opportunity to experience adaptive floor hockey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it will,
Really?
it is life-changing. I
Yep.
mean, it is to see those kids, how excited and happy they are,
Definitely.
and despite their disabilities, what they are capable of doing. It is just, I highly recommend that you try to watch it.
Will we then invite our one student that we have on the team then to be honored, I would assume?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep. Speech is going well. We've got a strong middle school group coming through, and including my daughter. So it's exciting to have that. Had meet canceled last week. Probably a little, in hindsight now, probably could have had it, but you just
We
never
could have
know.
made it back, but others surrounding, I mean, like if they
Yeah.
were coming from an hour away, it might have been a little touchy.
Right. Robotics is excited to compete at the University of Minnesota again this year. We were hoping that they could compete either at Grand Forks or La Crosse, but there was a waiting list, so that's not going to be happening.
Oh, darn.
7251.
Wright County Conference update. I want to spend a little bit of time here on this one. So, for those of you who have been on the board, you know that we've gone down this path and discussed this a little bit more in the future and in the past. But last Wednesday, the 6th, Jeff and Joe attended by invite, the Wright County Conference ADs meeting, and Joe attached that sort of summary sheet for the Wright County Conference meeting, and we're hopeful that this is something we'll get a formal invite to join. And it wouldn't take place if that were to happen, it would not take place for next year. It would take place for the 2021 season, which I think is attractive to the Wright Conference because we will be jumping up a class in several activities this coming school year, and then in 2022 2021, 2022 will make the leap for the other activities as well. I would say it's almost certain.
Do we still have to wait for somebody to drop out for them to
No.
accept us?
No, so my understanding is there's been another district, a smaller district, that has asked to join. And again, it's my understanding that the Wright County Conference ADs, after Jeff and Joe left, had a discussion about what if we let them both come in and then formed more of a true East and West division. And really essentially what that would do is it would create the large and the smaller schools, for the most part. Not completely true, but for the most part. So we would be placed in the East if that were the case. And it would be some stiff competition without a doubt. You can see the schools there: Delano, Holy Family, Hutch, New Prague, Orono, Waconia. That they would be who we'd be competing against. So just from a person who's fairly athletically minded, and let's just take basketball. So we're currently a 2A school, and most of our River Conference schools are either 2A or 1A. We're going to jump to 3A. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen in the next cycle. The reason why I know this is our 7th graders have 190 kids in them. So our enrollment went from 496 to 570. We're just going to get that much. We're 14 away from 3A. I think it's 14 or 16 away from 3A. So, you know, we're going to jump up. Then we would be a 3A school competing against what's likely going to be a conference full of more 1A schools than 2A schools. So there's something called the QRF. And what it is it's sort of like in college football, you know, NCAA football, they have that playoff, and then they have, every week they come out with the standings, and it's based off of a formula. Well, that's sort of what the QRF is. So that QRF determines how you're seeded in postseason play. So if you're a 3A school and you lose to a 1A school, that's not good.
That's real bad.
You'd rather be a 3A school losing to a 4A school.
Yeah.
And there are some years where we highly are competitive with some of these larger schools. And there's some years where we're not. So, does anybody feel strongly one way or the other? I've certainly had some conversations with some community members. I'm sure that will be in our future. There's going to be people all over the board on this, on what they feel. And obviously some of it's tradition. And I think the answer to that would be that we would try to preserve as much tradition as possible and play a non-conference schedule.
I have a question. So let's say we joined like schools or whatever for sport. Are we going to be like Scott West and have like different, you know, mascots and all that stuff?
No.
Okay.
So all this is a conference affiliation. So right now we're in a conference called the Minnesota River Conference. And this would be, if we were accepted, it's a Wright County Conference. It's a different conference. So we would leave the River Conference and join the Wright County Conference.
Okay.
But we would still participate as Jordan Public Schools.
Okay.
You brought up a good point, though. Scott West is currently, the cooperative sponsor is Belle Plaine. So the question would be, would they retain, would they stay in the Minnesota River? And most likely the answer is yes, because I don't see Belle Plaine moving or being accepted. I don't know. I mean, they haven't even gone through that process. So since they're the cooperative host, they would stay in the River Conference, is my interpretation.
Okay.
It's exciting.
It would be big.
It's the right play.
Yeah. Yes.
No pun intended.
Great. Any questions? Okay, community ed. Stephen's report. I heard that it wasn't the best night for that skate late thing, but I did see on Facebook several people that were there. It looked like they were having a great time.
Over 50 people there.
Was there really that
Yeah.
many?
Wow.
That's what I think it was 50 is what he told me.
So I hope they continue to do that again, so. Oh, one other thing, going back to the activities director's report. Tomorrow is the makeup, or is they changed the Nordic tracks
right.
day.
Moved it.
So
From
if
Wednesday
anybody,
to tomorrow.
yeah. So if anybody wants to, get out there and do it tomorrow.
It's fun.
Yeah. I hope they get some excitement, so that would be good. Okay, anything on Stevens? Any questions or comments? I know they're busy with Celebrate Jordan coming up. So.
April 7th, right?
April 7th, yep. Okay, Nutrition Services Director's report. Anything on that, Mr. Helgerson?
No.
No. Or anybody? Any questions? Okay, Student School Board Representative reports.
Okay. So for elementary school, they recently had a Dr. Seuss week where they just like dressed up to like themes according to Dr. Seuss's books in remembrance for him. My brother came home with his like shirt kind of flipped, and I was just like, Joshua, why did you go to school with your shirt the wrong way? He's like, it's Dr. Seuss week. And I was like, oh, okay.
Cute.
And then there's going to be a third and fourth grade concert on the 14th. It's going to be different times for different classes, so I have listed all the teachers and the times. And then for middle school, they recently went to the Wolf Ridge trip, as mentioned before. And right now, they're also in the registering process, as also the high school as well. And the art extravaganza is today. I don't know what that's about. I'm pretty sure it's just like an art showcase, kind of.
And choir concert.
Choir concert.
It's today and tomorrow.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Yep.
And then the student of the month is going to be announced tomorrow for the middle schoolers. And then there's also another extravaganza on the 12th tomorrow. And then they had the band, the middle school and high school band had a concert as well this month. And then for high school, there was a band concert on the 4th. High school students are also registering for their classes, so lots of kids are coming into our SNAP class talking about which classes they should take and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny seeing them struggle. And, well, I have to go through the same thing, but it's on a different scale. Seniors are also applying for Dollars for Scholars. The applications are due the 17th. It's a long process. I'm still working on my essays, trying to make sure they're good, but yeah. And then for sports, wrestling, had their good season. Unfortunately, they didn't make it to state, but 5 wrestlers made it to state, and they all placed in the top 6 of their division. For basketball, the ladies played very well this season. Their teamwork is amazing, and they're really funny people, and I'm so glad that they made it as far as they did. Unfortunately, they lost to St. Peter's on the 8th. It was a good game. They had fun. They made it up to there was a point where they were tied and went to
They were
overtime.
ahead at one point. They were 43-42.
Yeah. Intense. And then the boys have their game tonight. Hopefully they win.
They won.
Oh, they won?
Perfect.
Okay, well, they won. It's all good. Game Friday. So. Yep, that's it.
Great. Any questions for Tommy? Okay, thank you. Okay, on to school board members' reports. Let's see, first one on there is meet and confer. We met and conferred. Some of the things they brought forward were just some questions about standard-based grading, timeline, training, and expectations, and came to a very mutual understanding on that. They requested some additional tech support for testing and NWEA, and again, just working through the logistics of staff supporting one another, and I think they were okay with that by the end of the discussion also. Just another minor thing about meetings, morning meetings wrapping up on time. Those were the items that they brought. The district brought forward the attendance issues, the number of subs that we're having to get. We had a discussion about flex learning days, and then we had to talk about the change in the 1920. It was a good meeting, quick but good. So, retreat night number 3. Anybody?
So long ago.
I know, it was.
Can I start? May I
Yeah,
start?
yeah.
I think it might have been one of the best meetings we've ever had.
Really? Good.
I just think that it flowed well. There was a lot of good quality discussion, input, and what you want to have happen happened, you know, by the end of it. While there wasn't any formal decision making, the plan that was discussed really was, you know, brought together and formalized. So I think that's all you can ask for in a work session retreat type setting.
I think going into that, the outcome was much different than we thought it was going to be going into it, at least for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the way the questions were formulated.
obviously we had retreat night 1 and 2, and I think there were some components that made those nights challenging. I really think we came together, and I think it had the potential to go a completely different direction, but it just went in a very positive way. So at that, I think we can just share that we discussed programming for next year, and you can see some of the posting and job descriptions and pieces that are coming out as a result of that, you know, now you're formalizing with approval, such as the TOSA positions. And then the referendum is the other component, and tomorrow night we'll make that public to that first group, our long-range facility planning committee. Then Friday is my first staff meeting, and then I just do the tour of staff members and buildings and share what's going on with the fall referendum. So, good. Tommy, maybe you and I can sit down sometime and I can bring you up to speed on what we discussed there. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You'll want to see it.
I'm willing to.
You want to come back for it.
You won't want to graduate.
Okay, curriculum and technology. I don't think we met since. Did we meet?
Yeah, we did. I left early.
I left my notes at home. I'm sorry. I came straight from work, so I know it was on security.
We talked about security technology.
Yeah.
A lot of it was talked about security and about technology acceptable use policy and different updating forms, digital citizenship. I think I left at that point to go to the foundation, or to the...
Can I see it? That
Yeah.
may jog my memory a little bit.
I left to go to the...
I apologize because I had
went
to
to.
come straight from work. Yeah, I think we were basically talking about what form of curriculum we want to use in terms of like giving the 2 different examples of the common sense and the ISD standards. So just kind of trying to figure out how we want to get better at preparing our students for as digital citizens. So that was a good discussion. Talked about Securely, Go Guardian, and then but the main thing was talking about the current what we're doing now for the current curriculum, and you know there's 2 different options. There's a common sense digital citizenship, and then the Be Internet Awesome. And so we were discussing what are the pros and cons of each of those curricula.
Okay. Booster Club?
Yeah, we met, let's see here, it was a big snowstorm.
Which one?
Yeah, one of the earlier ones. It went well. I think they talked about kind of the new digital trophy case and kind of the approach there, and I think there's good alignment getting that one forward. Talked quite a bit about just fundraising in general and how that can work just holistically, and it's kind of the main stuff there. So nothing too earth-shattering. I think the big thing is they approved, you know, kind of paying for their portion for the digital trophy case. So it's probably a key thing for us.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
APAC?
I was unable to attend because we were at officer training.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had another meeting and was unable to attend either.
one thing that I would say, and I know because I talked with Chad the day after, is that there's been a really big issue with getting that committee the data that they need in order to, so that they can figure out who needs tutoring and all that. And I know it's a process in terms of getting redacted and all of that. And I know that there's other issues. But I just wondered if there's any way we can streamline that, because I feel like we spend so much of our meetings talking about, well, we need the data, we need the data, we need the data, and we never have the data. So, and I shouldn't say we never have the data. We have gotten it, but then we got it and it wasn't quite accurate. So I just, if there's anything we can do.
Not accurate or not what they wanted?
No. It was very clear in terms of like the percentiles for the exact, like it was like there was a score for children in the same grade and they had completely different percentiles, so which doesn't make sense. So I mean, we went through it line by line and it was just like, wait, this isn't adding up. So it actually wasn't
Sure.
accurate. So.
And I haven't been involved in those discussions,
Yep.
so I'll have to dig deeper in that.
Yep. So.
Okay, scale?
I was there. I was there for a part because then I went to the St. Francis Saints. So I presented on our school district. So you have a copy of what I presented, and it was well received. Yeah, I know that Midwakaton Sioux has expressed interest in coming out and touring our district. So
Really?
we're going to do that in the spring once we're able to get around a little bit better.
What do they want to see?
Yeah.
Everything.
Really?
So that was something that came out of that. Was contacted after the meeting, and
Good.
their tribal, I don't know what is it president, leader, requested an opportunity to come out and do a tour. So we'll get the golf cart out and we'll go around the district.
Golf cart?
Yeah, golf cart.
That's fine.
Great, that's good, any PR we can get.
Let's see what else. Another piece of feedback was, if you look in that presentation, I did reference MCA scores at the top of the radio conference. This particular gentleman said it would be nice to see specific scores. I believe he was a Prior Lake citizen, so I said, well, we're in the same ballpark as Prior Lake and New Prague and Shakopee, so all the other Scott County schools. And like Ben said, I think that's to a certain point, it gets a little frustrating because it's not the only measure for success.
Exactly.
I just gotten done presenting about the Summit program and how many credits kids can earn, and the CIS and CE courses and everything that we're trying to do. Some of the innovative programming that we presented on at the MSBA, and then that question got asked, and it's sort of, to the lay person who doesn't know the deeper pieces of public school education, I think test scores sometimes get overhyped or over highlighted or over reviewed. It's so hard. I can't remember, Laura, did you ask the question tonight or whatever, but
Yeah.
the year after year data, it's not even the same kids. I don't even know how you can measure that. You've got third graders fourth graders transitioning to fifth grade. Look at all the factors that are associated with that. You got a new building, you got kids switching classes, you've got just the developmental components of a fifth grader versus a fourth grader, and it's just like an apples to oranges comparison. So I think it's just real hard unless you track that group of kids and each individual year after year after year to look at progress.
But isn't that what we as parents do for our own kids, is we track our individual progress for our kids? So when we're looking at the data, why wouldn't we look at it as a class, how they're progressing versus comparing this fifth grade class to the last year's fifth grade class?
And we do. we look at that, but there are so many factors. It's one measurement. You can't.
No, I understand that, and I'm not one that normally pays attention to test scores per se, and I don't think we should ever teach to a test, but I think we should be able to know if our students are tracking the same as they were in 4th grade compared to 5th grade, and in 5th grade they dropped 10 points from 4th grade. So that's all I'm saying, is they should be able to at least be tracking at the same track and have the same growth trajectory.
Not necessarily.
Why not?
Because it's you have to compare it to other school districts too, because typically, especially schools that have, you know, let's say 5th grade is your last year at the elementary school and you go to 6th grade, you'll see a drop in 6th grade. That's pretty common when you go from one building to the next. So that's one factor.
Okay.
This year, I can tell you one factor that's going to be is the days missed. I would fully expect to see a decline in scores statewide this year.
That'll be interesting when you get the test scores next year to.
I mean, 5-6 days of lost instruction on average, average is probably 7 or 8.
I was gonna say,
so
there's
I think
some
we're probably
schools that have
light.
12.
You know, and
We
I think that's going to play a significant role in scores this year. So I mean, there's just so many different factors. I think our teachers and our students get so stressed out about that MCA window. And I would say our students in the lower middle school levels and elementary levels, I think once you get to high school, there's a little bit of a complacency because there's no teeth to it. Zero. None.
Okay. Day at the Capitol.
Then how are we measuring success?
By MCA scores is one measure.
You just said that
That's what the state tells us we have to do.
there has to be a different way to make sure that we're preparing everybody for college.
There is. How many credits did kids earn, which we measure every year? How many college credits graduating seniors earn? You know, ACT scores, another test measure. NWA, but not all of our kids take the NWAs. It stops in 8th grade.
Do we track from our graduation rate how many kids graduate from college?
We have not.
Do other districts do that?
I'm sure they do.
Do we want to start doing that?
Yes. Can we add some staff?
We'd have to add staff.
Damn.
Okay, day at the Capitol. I'm going.
We're going. I'm not going. I'm on.
Some of you are going to be spring breaking, aren't you?
I'll be in Texas.
Really late that night from Washington, D.C.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
So we'll have to plan
Yikes.
Tuesday
Yeah.
what time we're leaving because.
Yeah, so this will be, it's too bad that it falls on spring break week.
Why? Why did they do it? They've never done that before.
Well, it's
different spring breaks for different
well,
weeks.
it's because of where they felt they had the most
Got it.
Legislative
oomph
power.
with the legislature, so.
A lot of districts are on spring break this
And
week.
there's a
that week,
ton
so-
of, yeah, but there's a ton of education bills out there,
Yeah, I
so
know.
it's gonna be big. Okay, board and superintendent comments. Mr. Helgerson, anything?
Concerts been, the ones that I've been able to attend have been very well done. I'm just amazed at talk about trajectory, the forward positive trajectory of our band program. So I'd say that would be another measure of success.
When they can't fit on the stage.
When they can't fit on the stage and when they sound as good as they do and you hear the positive feedback. I mean, some of it's just informal measurement. You know, our choir program is certainly, choral music program is certainly the case as well. To have an a cappella group
That was awesome.
to qualify is, you know, fantastic. Yeah, it's enjoyed my time at the Capitol. It's always kind of a fun experience to testify. It's a different type of experience. You kind of forget your words sometimes when you're sitting there. But Senator Pratt, really appreciate what he's done to carry that bill forward. It's not so much for our district because we've eliminated all our pull stations. So you'd literally have to you'd have to start a fire under a smoke detector to get a false alarm.
Mm-hmm.
But we just, when the fire marshal came and told us that they would shut us down, we just said, fine, we eliminated all our pull stations, except for one. And I'm not gonna tell you where that is. One in each building. So, but you know, for districts outstate that maybe haven't had the funds to be able to do that, I think it's a really quality bill. There's just really no need to exit anymore, in my opinion. So, gives us that ability. So that's been fun. It's fun to be a part of a school that's one of the bigger in their particular section. So athletically, we've had a lot of success. I presented at scale, and over since last year, the start of last year, we've had 13 teams qualify for the state tournament. That's a pretty good run. So that's been enjoyable. Really excited about the Nordic skiing. That's kind of a winter cross country. Hopefully we have a lot of people come out tomorrow night, try that out. Appreciate that Joe's really focused on growing some of those programs. Stephen as well. You see the new bikes that he's purchased and put on the mezzanine level there, and those cycling classes and those different fitness classes that are electronic will be starting soon. Mm. So I think they're going to be $5 for a module, and then going forward, I think the idea, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if they're successful, that they'll be built into membership prices for renewals.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So
cool.
Just a lot of forward progress, and we're not perfect, but we'll continue to identify our areas of growth and hopefully make the right corrections.
I don't have anything.
Congrats to the Hubman.
Yeah.
I went to the game on Friday, and oh gosh, that was such a hard. I thought they were going to do it. I really did. I think everybody did, and it was just a heartbreaker. So, but they should not hang their heads at all. They did an awesome job.
Yes, they did.
So great season. So that's all I have.
I want to thank the sponsors that I didn't go to Mankato, but I got to listen to K-Check, and we have tons of sponsors through the state tournament and the different sports, and I thank them, the community members, for supporting them. I did attend the foundation meeting. Very excited to hopefully have the first table inside the door at Celebrate Jordan. We've got our brand design. Jiv, as a pillar of the community, would be the tree trunk, and all the branches are hands, because he was a laborer that worked with his hands, and it's gorgeous, just gorgeous. So that'll be excited for them to showcase. Talked a lot about scholarships. They were really worried. The presentation was to get, they were worried that the dollars for scholars numbers were going to be really low this year because some people had pulled out, and they went up. So it was, can't predict. So that was really good. They did something new this year for Dollars for Scholars, where you could phone in if they didn't call you. So I was waiting, and finally my phone rang, and so it was fun to be able to be a part of that. So again, Celebrate Jordan, there's going to be we don't have all of our paperwork done, so we can take donations, we can't give receipts yet. But that should be, there was some acknowledgement that our papers are at the state, they're just not all the way done there, so that's coming through. So that's where we are. I went band concert, and I just want to say kudos to the elementary, because a new community member got to go to kindergarten roundup and came back and said to me, "You have the most beautiful elementary in the world." I just loved everything that they were doing there. She loved the picture frame. She loved the balloons. Everything was wonderful. So that made me feel really good.
It did look really nice, and
she said it was beautiful.
Families are always, it's always a fun night because they're always smiling, and the kids are excited and wish they could stay and
they all thought they were going to school the next day.
Yes.
And she said, and your superintendent was there. And I was like, oh, so kudos to you. So very, very nice. They just thought our building, the people, everybody's wonderful. And I'm honored that we have a teacher in the finalists for Teacher of the Year. We are blessed, you know, to have her.
She's awesome.
So that's all I got. Lauren?
I went to the 5th and 6th grade band and art extravaganza today, so that's why I left. Sorry, but it was good. I'm glad I went. The poems on the wall were very nice. I did go to the band concert, and you girls are fabulous.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, that is awesome. You guys did so well.
Thank you.
And I think that's all I have. And I did go to the basketball games, and yeah, that was a good game. And they did so well.
They
They had a great season, and
We have been a gym rat the last month. A couple things though. So we did have, I'm sure you guys all noticed all the traffic here a few weeks ago. There's a big tournament. Again, same thing as every other year. Everyone loves the facilities. They're surprised just how great, you know, we have in terms of facilities and just how clean it is and how well everything's ran and everything like that. So it's always good to see people from larger schools kind of like, hey, Jordan's not this little thing that's out there. So there's that. I think the other thing too, with all the snow days, I thought the communication was spot on. You know, what we've done as a district, I thought as a parent, it was great. You know, it was really great. We knew early and often when cancellations or late starts were happening. So, you know, kudos to everyone for that.
Great. Tommy, did you have anything else?
I would just like to say I like the way Jordan classes are moving. I just feel like a lot of kids in Jordan don't really want to go to college, but they want to do something with like construction and all that fun stuff. And like I just think it's great how we're giving them more options, because college isn't for everyone, and I feel like a lot of people are starting to realize that. So it's just good that everybody can find something for them, even though it's not always going to be there. At least they still have open options.
So Tommy, can I ask a follow-up to that comment then?
Yeah.
Do you hear your friends and classmates and students talking about that there are more offerings and more opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot where I got this information from, but like we're always just casually talking about like the future, and I feel like someone was having a conversation how like the school doesn't really offer what they want. I think it was also me too. I was just like, oh, I would like to have like an AP biology class because I want to be a biology major, but it's just like, well, there's other things that I can do, but I don't know, like, I'm not explaining it, but we were just talking about like how we want more hands-on opportunities and not just like, oh, you're average, here's like, you have to take all these things for math and all these things. We want to like find something out there. We don't want to be stuck in this strict like, you know,
sitting in rows,
requirements and stuff like that. But it's also because of like how everything runs too, so it's going to be a while before that changes. So, oh wait, I remember, I think it was the ELC. We were having this discussion in the equity leadership committee thing.
So,
Great.
you know, just to illustrate that, I think the Intro to Ed course, this part of our summit program, if you take that, you can satisfy your writing requirement. So, and it's one semester versus an entire year. So you're earning college credit, you're satisfying your high school writing requirement.
Money.
And you know, saving dollars and determining whether or not that's a field that you want to explore. And even if it isn't, that may lead to, you know, other interests. So I think that's what you're talking about, is trying to provide a little bit more of that realistic, relevant, hands-on coursework.
It's kind of like the class at St. Gertrude's. Like I thought I wanted to go into nursing, but then the more time I like spent at the you know, like the more people came in and started talking about like what they go through the process, I'm like, I could never be like a nurse like that. Like I don't think I can really do that. I thought I wanted to be a nurse, but I was like, no, I'll find something else. But it's good, doctor. It's good that I have that exposure, because it kind of shows me a preview before I want to, like, I don't know, like before I want to jump into the whole thing. So I'm glad I had that opportunity to see the whole thing before I was like fully committed.
Sure.
Because if I was fully committed and have to like draw back, I think that'd be a lot of stuff to do and find. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? This was one of the longest
I'm gonna
meetings.
turn into a pumpkin.
Yeah, no. I need a motion.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
It's only 10 minutes to 9.
Thank you all.
Yeah. I gotta be on a plane in a few hours.